What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 12 of C4SVillains. I am your host JB and I am here as always with my co-host Legendy Vash, and we are here with the entire O-Holics crew to talk about the Falcon and the Winter Soldier and to do a spoilers discussion deep dive into Zack Snyder's Justice League. So Chris, Brian, Christian, thank you guys so much for being here on this episode with me to bring in my birthday. It is an honor to have all of you guys here on the podcast.
Thank you, man, and happy birthday. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited
happy
for
birthday,
Brian and
James.
Christian to be here.
Yeah, very excited for Christian to be
25
here.
years old.
Happy birthday.
Thank you, Joker. I really appreciate that.
It's a kind and caring Joker here tonight.
Yeah, definitely.
We do live in a society, right, Joker?
Yeah.
He's a man of many words.
But I've been waiting for this to happen for a while now. I'm so glad again to have all of you guys here on this episode with me. We have a lot of great stuff to talk about. I can't wait to talk about the news real quick because there was some stuff that came out that absolutely pissed me off. And we're going to talk about full spoilers about episode 3 of The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And then we're going to spend most of the time, again, like I said in the intro, doing a deep dive of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So let's get into the news. First piece of news, Variety reported that the New Gods that Ava DuVernay was going to write and direct and the Trench that was going to be done by James Wan have officially been canceled and will no longer be moving forward at WB. I do have to say, I was not surprised by the Trench being canceled. I felt like it was something way too deep cuts. I felt like it was something that WB simply just doesn't have the balls to make. And like, I'm not surprised by that at all. When Ava DuVernay started writing and was going to do the pilot for the Naomi series on the CW, I was like, oh, well, they're either pushing New Gods or it's just not happening. And then we find out that it's not happening. So I want to know what you guys think. So Brian, I kind of want to start with you. Like, did you have any excitement for New Gods and the Trench? And how do you feel about the news?
So I know very little about the New Gods personally. I am familiar with Ava DuVernay and 13th. I saw very late, but it's one of the most impactful and important documentaries that I've ever seen. Personally, it hit me very heavy when I saw it last year. So I'm really excited to see what she's done. I know that A Wrinkle in Time wasn't received super well, but I grew up with that book and I had an okay time with that movie. It was CG heavy, but I thought there was stuff to like there. As far as the Trench, I'm a pretty big James Wan fan. I love the Conjuring movies, and Aquaman was a really weird situation for me where the first time I saw it, I laughed my way through because of how bad I thought it was. And then I watched it again and kind of loved it for how silly and sort of bad it was. So I've made a turn on that. So I was pretty excited for the Trench, actually, with James Wan coming back to that universe. So yeah, this was a bit of a disappointment for me.
Definitely. Joker?
Well, happy to be here, James. Thanks for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for asking for my opinion on the Aquaman. I didn't finish the first Aquaman. However, it wasn't Tom King supposed to be helping write the screenplay?
He was.
On O-Holics, we covered the wonderful Vision run that Tom King did, which was excellent. And so I'm sad for that, but I didn't finish Aquaman.
And he called James a nerd. It was a crowning moment for all of us.
Yes, I am a certified nerd by Tom King himself. Chris, what are your thoughts on this?
I think I'm mostly disappointed about Ava DuVernay not directing a New Gods film. While I, like you, I never thought that either of these movies were going to come to fruition since they've been announced. If WB doesn't have the balls to like make Zack Snyder movies, they're not going to make these movies. You know, these are super deep cuts, like you said, like way out there when it comes to comic book content. So I think New Gods is the real loss here. Unlike Brian, I wasn't really excited about The Trench. I never thought The Trench could carry a 2-hour movie by themselves. So I didn't even get my hopes up when it came to that film. But in terms of James Wan, I think if someone was going to direct a Trench movie, he's definitely the person to do it.
Right.
But no tears shed over that movie in my case. But I think New Gods would have been a cool movie.
Yeah, Vash.
I'm not shocked. Me and James have speak this week to week. We just disappointed. We're curious to know what the hell they're doing, and for you to cancel it like New Gods. I've seen it in the cartoons, I've seen it in the comics. It's so much hype to know that they actually can bring this to life, and then boom, it gets axed. So it's like, okay, was there a reason? Like, I wish we knew why these things like doesn't continue moving forward in these studios. I wish we would know why. If it's scheduling, if it's production, if it's the money, or if it's they don't want to continue the planning, or if it's something involves with the DCEU. So I'm really curious about that, but very disappointing. I'm tired of this shit from Warner Brothers. That's my honest opinion about it. Like, I just hope they
do this a lot.
They do. So that's what, like,
They announce stuff and then they cancel it. It happens
just
a lot, or
old
they
for it
change
already, like,
directors.
I'm just tired of it. Like, just figure out what the fuck y'all want to do. That's all. It's just like, can you guys just, like, if you guys want to announce on it, make sure you announce it. Like, there's Marvel, when they announce it, they actually stick with it. The only thing that DC has actually announced and stick with it is Black Adam, but because he's been in contract with The Rock for almost 8 years that they have had his name on it. Other than that, most of the things they've announced just has fall off.
Yeah, it remains to be seen still,
Yeah.
right?
Honestly, until the Flash and the Black Adam movie are in theaters,
Well, Black
I
Adam,
don't believe
sure, it's
anything.
coming out. Like,
Yeah.
there's posters for it. He's training for it. Like, there's no way that's gonna come. Like, he's been promoting and like he's been hyping up, saying like this is the battle with Shazam and his story. Like, he's been hyping up Black Adam for the past year right now, and like years before too. But most recently, he's been training for this movie the most and talking about. So like, I think this one will be coming out. The Flash, I don't know what the hell they will do with that one either.
we'll
Yeah,
see.
man.
Warner
like-
Brothers doesn't have a plan.
And they don't, right? They don't have a plan. It was like, Aquaman made a bunch of money and people love James Wan and he's already a partner of ours. Okay, The Trench, it can be a horror movie that he can do within the comic book movie genre in DC. Cool. Oh, New Gods. While we still have Zack Snyder and we're actually following along with his universe, after Justice League, we'll get the New Gods. We'll introduce Highfather and Orion and all of these other characters, and we'll expand the universe even more. And the reason why New Gods was canceled because they're not moving forward with the Snyderverse. That's what I think anyway, because they're obviously not moving forward with Darkseid. They're not doing anything with Zack Snyder's Justice League anymore, which I think is absolutely ridiculous when you look at the plan that Zack Snyder had. I read this interview that he did in GQ magazine where he talks about his Justice League movie was going to be 3 parts that was going to go into so much more stuff with the nightmare sequence, with Superman being rewritten by the anti-life equation. Like, when I read that, I thought that was absolutely amazing. On the Anime Lately podcast, when we were talking about Justice League, because it's not really clear in the movie, right? I was just going off of the assumption, like how it happens in the comics, after Superman loses Lois, he kind of falls under the thumb of Darkseid in that story, right? So that's what I thought, because again, it's not clear in the film at all, but reading the article in GQ magazine, it's because of the anti-life equation that he was able to rewrite the will of Superman. And I told Vash when he brought it up that he was wrong because I didn't have the knowledge, right? I didn't have the actual knowledge from Zach's article, from the interview that he did. So that was my bad. I was waiting for us to review this so I can tell Vash sorry on air that I told him he was wrong without doing the research on my end. But I feel like that's something he should have introduced in the film, knowing that he wasn't going to make any more subsequent movies. He should have said that it was the anti-life equation that rewrote Superman. And we'll get there. But I mean, did you guys have any type of idea that it was the anti-life equation just from the movie?
Oh no, he doesn't ever state that ever.
Yeah, not at all.
Yeah.
But I mean, I read the same article you
aspect.
did.
But
Only
in
from
what
listening
way,
to his
though?
reviews.
What visual do we get in the movie that says, oh, he was rewritten by the anti-life equation?
Rather save that for the Justice League discussion. I don't want to say it now, so I'd rather save that for the discussion later.
Cool. All right. So that's how I feel about those pieces of news. Like, I'm not really surprised at all that they got canceled. I'm just really sad about it because I just feel like the New Gods could have been like the Guardians of the Galaxy. It could have been like the Eternals to like further expand the universe of the DCEU. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I don't know what they're doing. Like Joker said, there's just no plan right now.
They announced New Gods fairly close to Marvel announcing the Eternals. So I really think it was kind of this like counter move. Like, okay, they're going to be making this Pantheon-esque movie about this property that they have. What property do we have that has similar characters? Oh, New Gods. Let's make it happen.
Yeah. And they should have made it, man. Like, it would have been a really good movie. Like, Tom King and Ava DuVernay were working on this movie. Like, you imagine the dialogue? Cool, like, how amazing that movie could have been. Like, it's just really, really disappointing to just see the potential of the DCEU and just knowing that the leaders over DC at Warner Brothers just don't know what they're doing. And it's really, really frustrating. Like, I don't know what they're going to do with the Flash movie. I believe Adam Wingard is the one directing it that did Godzilla King of Monsters. So the Flash movie could be
Andy Muschietti.
Andy
the
Muschietti.
Director for It.
What was I thinking about that Adam Wingard's directing?
He just got signed on for something.
Yeah,
I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I can't remember what it is
Was
right
it
now.
Thundercats or something?
Thundercats. Yes, that's what it is. Good job, Brian.
That's what it is.
That's our fact guy right there. Popaholics fact guy.
Yeah, Andy Muschietti. So even better, right? So he did the It movies. What else did he do?
That's all I know him from.
Yeah, that's all I can remember right now. But I'm excited for the Flash movie, even though like it's been through a bunch of different scripts, different directors, different writers. So we'll see how it comes out. Yeah, different cast. Yeah, Billy Crudup was recast.
Yeah, dude, even Michael Keaton right now is like, I don't know if I'm gonna do that. And they have him in concept art as Batman.
Yeah. Oh wow.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see how that shakes out, man. I think they have the best opportunity possible to do Flashpoint, completely reset the entire DCEU. It will give them an excuse to reuse the actors that they love and bring them back and just say, oh, the timeline's completely different because of Flashpoint, right? I think that would be the easiest thing to do and just start fresh, but I have no faith in them whatsoever.
I don't think that's going to happen because that's a good idea.
Well put,
Yikes.
Joker.
Yeah.
If it does turn out that Michael Keaton bails on that movie, please, for the love of God, you already have Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne. Please. I want to see it so badly. Just make Jeffrey Dean Morgan Thomas Wayne in the Flashpoint movie. You already have Ben Affleck as Batman, probably for the briefest cameo in that film, but he signed on to do it. Just give me Jeffrey Dean Morgan as Thomas Wayne Batman. That would be so fucking cool.
It would be, and I would love to see Lauren Cohen be Joker.
That would be awesome.
That would be dope, man. I think that would be insane.
Interesting.
It's not going to happen, but a boy can dream.
Right?
Or in this case, a 32-year-old man can dream.
The action boy.
Yeah, the action boy.
But one other movie that I am excited that's going to be coming out this year is Suicide Squad with that new trailer that he put out, James Gunn. He put out the new trailer. He's really hyping me up with this trailer. Like,
it looks fun.
It looks
It
like
really
the
does.
actual Suicide Squad Task Force X that I've seen in the comics and read them. Like, this is the movie I've been wanting, not the first one that James hates with a passion because he calls it a music video movie, right?
I mean,
not
it's not a movie. It's a music video. It's a 2-hour-long music video. That's what it is.
I'll ask this. Do you like the soundtrack at least? If it was a
No.
2-hour-long music video. All right.
No.
Fails on every level then.
There's nothing that saves that movie from me at all. Christian, have you even seen Suicide Squad?
I have. It's bad. It's not good.
Yeah, real bad. Are you excited for the Suicide Squad at all?
Yeah, I mean, it's a 2-hour music video. Clearly, it's in the Snyderverse.
Brian, are you?
Zack Snyder directs very long music videos and calls them movies.
I'm definitely excited for this. I'm one of the people who pretty much enjoys all the DC movies on some level, even if they're not masterpieces. So this looks like a step up from the last one. So I'm excited. I really enjoy the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, and Step Up, also a classic from my childhood. Young Channing Tatum doing some things in that movie.
Doing some things to me.
If you want to question doing some things, it's technically a Magic Mike. That's him doing some things.
Now, Magic
I-
Mike, is that a superhero?
A superhero of sorts, depending on the
Of
crowd.
It
sorts.
depends. It
Yeah.
depends on in what perspective you want to see it, and in what type of outfit.
He's someone's superhero.
At nighttime in bed.
Yeah,
Chris,
no,
what
we
are
get
your-
it. We get it. We get it.
What are your thoughts on the Suicide Squad? Like, are you excited for it? Like, how do you feel about Starro being the villain of the Suicide Squad movie? Like, what do you think?
I think it's going to be a ton of fun. I mean, Warner Brothers, it was a genius move, snagging up James Gunn right as he was being fired from Disney. You know, there was a brief period in which he wasn't associated with them, and they picked him up right at the right moment. And this is what WB wanted for Suicide Squad to begin with. They wanted that first movie to be a Guardians of the Galaxy-esque film. You know, a bunch of delinquents running around, causing mayhem, trying to solve a problem. And it just, they couldn't pivot fast enough to turn David Ayer's flick into that movie. But they literally got the director of Guardians of the Galaxy to make the Suicide Squad. And you can see in the trailers, it's the same type of tone. I'm super excited. And he's chosen such a weird and eclectic cast from the DC comics to be in this movie. It's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, like Polka Dot Man. Like, really? That's gonna be so cool. Ratcatcher is
Ratcatcher?
gonna be in
Yeah.
this. Like, yeah, this movie is going to be so much fun. I'm so glad that James Gunn is directing it. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. I love that Idris is essentially the leader of Task Force X this time around. I think that's going to be dope. I'm looking forward to seeing the Birds of Prey version of Harley Quinn coming into the Suicide
Agreed.
Squad, because I was not a fan of Harley Quinn in the Suicide Squad movie. I thought that was really mishandled. Like, she was overly sexualized for no reason. And I've said it a million times. She was just a crazy stripper. That's all she was in that movie. And it drives me absolutely insane.
Hey, are you saying you can't make a good character out of a crazy stripper?
I mean, you can if you put it in Birds of Prey. That was a good movie.
I thought she was the best part of that movie, but I'm biased.
Of the-
Influenced by the visuals here, maybe, and he's got personal stakes in the matter, obviously.
Very true. Yeah.
I didn't like that clown wearing a grill. That was weird.
Yeah, I hated that. I was so glad that was removed from Zack Snyder's Justice League. That's just not a thing in there. But I'm jumping ahead too much. We will get to that portion of the show.
Yes, you are.
But I want to move on to the next segment where we're going to be talking about comic book recommendations. It is the first episode of the month, so we will be recommending a comic book to all of you guys watching the show right now. So, Brian, I would actually love to start with you, and I want to know what comic book you would recommend.
Sure. So this is actually a book that I had heard a bunch of people talking about last year in their best of comics, but it's been running since I think 2018. And so I've read the first 2 volumes of The Immortal Hulk by Al Ewing and Joe Bennett. And this is it here. It's called Or Is He Both? I was very unfamiliar with the lore behind the Immortal Hulk and what he was. So coming into this kind of fresh was really nice for me. It has high concept, almost metaphysical elements to who Bruce Banner is versus who the Hulk himself is. And there's a clear separation here where they are kind of on the outs with each other. I don't want to say too much about this, but it's very easy to read. And the art there's some really beautiful 2-page splashes, that 2 or 3 really incredible ones per volume so far. I think the standout issue so far for me, there is an episode where 4 different people are being interviewed for a crime scene that the Hulk Banner was involved in. And the styles change every time they switch characters, and all 4 people are presenting a different sort of story, a different take on this story, almost a Rashomon style issue of this comic. And it just felt very fresh and new to me, being unfamiliar with the character. They bring up some other I don't want to spoil anything, but other people tied to the Immortal Hulk who he has history with that are involved in this story. And yeah, there's quotes from Carl Jung. It's metaphysical, heavy symbology. And I've heard it only goes up from here, because some of the stuff from last year is apparently some of the people's favorite stuff in this run. So I am very much looking forward to continuing on with the Immortal Hulk.
Yeah, I started it, but I haven't finished the run, and I really really like the art. I love the way that it started out, like you already said, like the story and the parallels between Bruce Banner and the Hulk himself. Like I love that part of the story, but I do need to finish that. Chris, I'm gonna toss it to you. What are you gonna recommend?
So I've gone on record on our show stating that Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo are my favorite Batman team of all time. And some people might find that ridiculous, but I just, his writing with Capullo's art is the best combination I've seen for Batman in a really long time. And when they left the main Batman book and Tom King took over, DC was essentially like, what do you guys want to do? You know, like your run has been super popular, no holds bar. What do you want to make? And what they ended up making was like a series of post-apocalyptic Batman stories. You have metal and death metal in the main continuity of DC, which I was talking to Brian about metal and death metal the other day. Those two things existing in the main continuity of DC as like this crisis-esque narrative blows my mind to begin with. But we're not here to talk about metal and death metal. The book that I'm recommending is actually a book, another post-apocalyptic Batman book that they wrote more in line with their Batman run when they were working on the main book, and that is Batman Last Night on Earth. And this I don't want to give too much away, because with a lot of their stories after leaving the mainline Batman series, there are a lot of twists and turns and a lot of awesome surprises. But the basis of the story is Bruce Wayne awakens in a post-apocalyptic world. Earth is completely destroyed, and his only companion to help him navigate this world is Joker's head in a jar. So it's basically just the two of them. Sorry, Joker. It's the two of them navigating, as you can see behind my wonderful co-host over here, a post-apocalyptic wasteland. And he's just trying to piece together what the hell happened and try and bring things back to the way they were. But Greg Capullo's art is perfect for this type of storytelling, and I highly, highly recommend this book. I think you'll have a lot of fun with it. On the back of the book, it says this could be the last Batman story, which I think is super high praise, especially coming from a Batman fan.
Wow.
Have any of you read Batman Last Night on Earth?
I have not. I really want to though.
You dig it. It's crazy.
I've only read the first issue, and I remember we talked about it when it came out, Chris. And
Yeah.
I haven't come back. And is it 3 total? 4 total?
3 issues total, I believe.
Okay.
Yes. I forgot to mention this is also part of DC's Black Label, which is another reason Scott Snyder and Greg Capullo can do whatever the heck they want, because anything
all
under the
out.
Black Label is like Elseworld stories. It's great, and it's more adult. It's a little more adult.
Good. I like comics like that. Christian?
Yeah, so I'm going to recommend a comic book that we covered on the O-Holics. It was Sandman Overture. I have it here. I have a hard copy. I'm not the comic book fan that y'all are, as we'll find out as this podcast. Or what is this on YouTube?
YouTube and audio.
Oh, hi YouTube, and audio listeners. So this is Neil Gaiman, and if you're familiar, Brian could tell you all about what Sandman's about. Honestly, I read it a year ago. I don't really remember, but it's real pretty. It's beautiful artwork. It invokes a lot of imagery, a lot of feelings as you're reading it. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I'm not a big comic book fan. It was pretty good. So Sandman Overture, even if you, I think the big telling thing about it is that if you're not even into comic books, I think you can get into this one just because it's pretty. It's like a pretty art book. Is that good?
It is. Thank you so much, Joker.
Excellent.
Great job. Yeah.
Vash, I'm going to toss it to you.
For me, for today, it is Wolverine, Old Man Logan. Even though you could barely could tell, but See, yeah.
I
there.
read that one.
Wolverine,
that one's good.
Old Man Logan.
I like that
This one here.
Really
if you
good
wanna
story.
If you want to see Wolverine, who's tired, who has gone through a lot of shit, post-apocalyptic, and there's Hawkeye, the Hulks and his family, and we have Emma Frost. We have a bunch of other characters from Marvel in an older version of them. We have Spider-Woman as well. So it's like a lot of characters that involves, I think it's 8 chapters, or I think it's 8 chapters, right? Or 9? I don't remember how many
It's a
chapters it
breeze.
was. Yeah, so it's a good 8, 9 chapters that you could read it within less than 2 hours and everything. Great art. I highly suggest it. It's very violent, so if you're definitely older than 18, definitely read it. You know, definitely older than 14, definitely read the series. It's very dark. It gives the different side of what the movie adaptation did of Old Man Logan. The actual comic is the one that's the actual real story of it, because you know Fox likes to take a lot of fat of the actual story, and also they didn't have rights to actually have Hulk, Spider-Woman, and actually use Emma Frost for not some apparent reason, even though they had the rights for it. But sure, you know, Fox does whatever the fuck they want. But definitely really suggest to read Wolverine, the Old Man Logan. So good.
Now, I actually read this one, and I told you I wasn't a big comic book reader, but I'm a big Wolverine fan. I like him a lot with claws.
Oh, nice.
And I can second this recommendation, again, coming from someone who hasn't read a lot of comic books.
Yep.
It kind of has kind of a WandaVision spin to it, you know. Fans of your podcast just recently watched WandaVision, and it's very similar. Kind of in a way.
True.
Yeah, it's a really, really good story. I highly recommend you guys checking it out if you haven't already. I don't have the physical book because I've been reading it digitally, but my pick is going to be the 2019 Doctor Doom run by Christopher Cantwell. I think it is a great Doctor Doom story. It pretty much it's a character story diving into the mind of Victor Von Doom. Over time, this has been a man who has given the world great advancements in science. He's done great things for humanity, but he has also subjugated an entire European country and has become a dictator as well. So this story does a really good balance of this guy that you want to look at as this great villain, but he's also this great philanthropist who also wants the best for the planet, but goes the wrong way in doing these things. So that's all I'll say about the story itself. I don't want to give anything away because I do want you guys to pick it up and read it. It's a short run. I believe it's only like 6 or 7 issues, I believe, but it's really, really good. I highly recommend checking out Christopher Cantwell's Doctor Doom run. I think you'll really, really enjoy that story for sure. Yeah. Have any of you guys read it at all?
I haven't read it, but Doom's an interesting character, so I'll have to check it out.
Same.
Yeah, he is my favorite Marvel villain, like, of all time. I love Doom. I love everything that he is. He's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
He's
I do
never-
recall, you and Ray talking about the Doom run that's happening currently, and also Thor run. So I know that I really need to read this because you and Ray have been talking about it very much recently.
Yeah. So those are the comic books that we are recommending for this month. I want to dive in and start talking about The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, episode 3. This was my favorite episode so far. This episode was action-packed, filled with story beats, character beats, and I want to dive straight into it. But first, I want to know from you guys, what are your thoughts on the first 2 episodes of the series so far? Christian, I want to start with you.
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of this. I'm a fan of a lot of Marvel stuff, and I get really annoyed that we're living in just Marvel territory and they're doing it better than DC consistently across the board. I'm personally hurt from that. Doesn't make me feel good. But I really enjoy that they have always set this bar. I mentioned this on our show, that there's always a bar of how good it's going to be. It's always going to be a certain amount of funny. It's always going to be a certain amount of entertaining. It's always going to be a certain amount of zhuzh that makes it a special Marvel show or a Marvel movie. And they're proven with WandaVision and Winter Falcon Soldier that they're doing that. And I appreciate that. And I find this is covering, it takes turns. I think I know what I'm going to see. I think I'm going to see a buddy cop thing. They've sold me on that. And I'm expecting that. And it's doing that well. But also, you've got the elements. We're in spoilers, right? This is the spoiler show.
Full spoilers, yeah.
Right. You've got the Captain America character who is taking over the mantle, and it adds this whole new conflict, and it's very, very fascinating to see someone pick it up and you kind of hate him, but you kind of like him and understand him. So he's not fully a villain at that point, but he is someone that's unlikable, and we're rooting obviously for Bucky and Captain Falcon. And so I enjoy that interplay. I did not expect that, and that's to me the most fascinating part of the show so far. So I'm enjoying that element.
Yeah, definitely. Brian?
I have had a ton of fun with this show so far. Coming off of WandaVision, where we kind of had to work to get to the real emotional character moments, this kind of drops us right in, and these characters are already established. There's a lot of the groundwork that's been done. So they just get into really diving deep into the history of both these characters. And I think it's been done excellently so far. I mentioned it on our show last night, but how great it looks. There's so much money clearly on the screen. It's just inseparable from stuff you'd see in a theater in MCU movies for me.
Yeah.
And I think the second episode, the action choreography, there's one particular scene on top of, is it a train or trucks?
Two semi trucks.
The semi trucks that
amazing.
Is just absolutely unbelievable, and the kind of stuff that you're just not getting in most television and really most movies even. So yeah, I was pretty impressed. Christian, to your point about Captain America, I don't trust this guy. I don't trust him as far as I could throw him at this point, but we'll get into episode 3, kind of confirmed some of my suspicions a little bit.
Yeah. Chris?
Yeah, I've really been enjoying this show as well. I echo a lot of the sentiments that both Christian and Brian have stated. Like, this show is delivering on your average action-packed MCU level, what we expect to see in an MCU film. But I talked to you a little bit about this after watching the first episode. I was actually really surprised at how they're exploring the emotional complexity of both Sam Wilson and Bucky Barnes, how they're both coping with their pasts, as well as the loss of this mutual friend, how they're trying to navigate the waters of defining what their relationship is. Because they were heavily reliant on this one person to be the glue between the two of them. And now that one person is gone, they kind of need to redefine what this relationship means for both of them. You know, Sam, as he's going through this show, is kind of discovering the downsides to what it means to hold the mantle of being Captain America. And we'll talk a little bit about what his opinion is at this time in episode 3, when we talk about that. But there's a lot of negativity he's realizing that's kind of associated with that mantle. And Steve really brought a genuine life and a positivity to it. But now that it's been handed off to someone who's a little more militaristic, it has more negative connotations associated with it. And then with Bucky, we're exploring his PTSD, him battling with being the Winter Soldier for so many decades. And now that he's kind of gained his agency back, he has to live with everything that he did because he was conscious for all of it, regardless of whether he wanted to do those things or not. So I just didn't expect that. I know you and I kind of thought that maybe they would do that. And I'm pleasantly surprised that they are. I'm also pleasantly surprised that the show isn't shying away from this, systematic racial issue that we're experiencing as a country. I think that's super important, especially with Sam Wilson inevitably going to pick up the Captain America mantle by the end of the show. I don't think that's a spoiler. That's totally going to happen. I'm glad to see that Marvel is doing that. I think it's important. So I'm really digging what the show is putting down. I'm excited to see where it goes now that we're halfway through the series.
Same. This show really, really surprised me. I did not expect to get so much action and so much emotional character beats to these characters right out of the gate. So I thought that was really, really impressive. Christian and Brian, I kind of want to toss this to you real quick. What were your thoughts when you found out about Isaiah Bradley? I know you guys aren't the biggest comic book people, but did you know about Isaiah Bradley prior? And if you didn't, what did you think about his reveal in episode 2?
I actually had no idea about Isaiah Bradley's character prior, but once they introduced it, it felt like an element of the time period that Captain America First Avenger is exploring that we didn't really see in that movie, about kind of what's going on behind the scenes with people of color at that time and where the experimentation really began. And for me, it was really exciting. I was like, this opens up so many doors for previous stuff and lore. And I was completely here for it. Yeah, but I wasn't familiar with him previously, so it wasn't like a, oh my gosh, it's him moment, unfortunately.
Yeah, Christian.
I actually had heard, like, I guess there's fragments in my brain from my nerdy friends like Chris, who have told me things about facts about comic book stuff, that when I heard the character and I saw him, I was like, oh, he's a super soldier from before. I remember that. That's in my brain. And I thought it was really cool. I'm a little disappointed that we're not getting, I want to go down that rabbit hole.
I would love a flashback of him at like full power on the battlefield in costume.
like,
hell
That would
yeah.
be
Him to be
awesome.
involved.
Yes, bro.
Him to be involved more, because it's so interesting, and it's the show's trying to tackle some of the stuff is trying to tackle, might help to incorporate that more.
Yeah, I don't know if they'll have time. I mean, because it's only 6 episodes, but man, I would love some type of flashback of just like a quick scene, even if it's just the fight between Isaiah and Bucky. I think that would be great, just to jump back to like 1951 and just watch that fight between them and to see how that went, to see like
man.
what his strength was like compared to Steve, because I mean, he gave Bucky the work. He broke his arm
Ripped it
in
off.
half. So I mean, he was the closest to being like the way Steve was. So it's very important to me that they brought Isaiah into the show, and we'll get into a lot of that when we talk about episode 3. So let's dive into it, right? From the end of episode 2, it was Sam and Bucky's plan to not break Zemo out of prison. That wasn't exactly the plan right away, but to visit Zemo and try to get information from him about Hydra. So Vash, I actually want to start with you, and I want to know some of your favorite moments from episode 3.
My favorite moments of episode 3 is that I love how Bucky tells Sam, so, hey, let me tell you, hypothetically, if this happens, hypothetically speaking, because I do this to a lot of my friends, and they're like, hey, hypothetically, if this happens. So I just love how Bucky just spoke to him like that, and it wouldn't happen, and then he just pop up like, hey, what's up? And then he was like, wait, what the fuck is going on here? So I love how he kept questioning, and how Bucky literally gave the hands to those people. Damn, I forget the name. And
In Madripoor?
Thank you. He gave those hands to those people in that bar, and it was amazing. He
yeah.
I think he kicked like 6 asses. I think like good 6 to 8 people asses. I was like, damn. And then Zemo said like, he still got the skills, It's just easy. Just tell him to fight. He fights good and everything. So
Yeah,
I love
Flip
that.
the switch. Yeah.
Dude, during that scene, I was watching with my wife, and she turned to me and she was like, I think he's more comfortable like that. Like, and he is,
He is.
He's been the Winter Soldier for such a long time. It's hard communicating with people, and it's hard building new relationships. But if he can default to fighting, that's a zone where he's comfortable, and you can tell in this episode.
He was great, and that's why I think he wants to work with Sam, because he feels like he was working with Cap because he was a soldier. Like, once you're a soldier, you're always a soldier. So like that's why Cap never gave up on fighting, or like never settled down, because he always in war. Back before and then back to the Avengers. So, and to see Sharon Carter here, and I have a couple theories for that, so I can't wait to talk, because I told James he's like interesting, so I'm like, can't wait to see what you guys think about that too. So to see Sharon as well, that's pretty dope. But my overall favorite part throughout the show is the chemistry between Zemo, Bucky, and Sam. The tension, the way Zemo spoke to them, the way Zemo carried himself as the character, and the way he showed like, hey, I've always been rich, I'm a baron. So I love those type of scenes as well. Like, this episode is my favorite, and also they brought more information about Isaiah Bradley as well. They didn't mention, but we knew who they were talking about because he was in the most recent episode. So I love this episode very much because they gave a lot of seeds, but those were my favorite moments. I will get into depth much later on.
Yeah.
Being completely transparent, I watched it while it was so I need to watch it again, because there's moments you said I think I missed because I was, but I really like Zemo. Zemo is you may know this, James and Chris and Brian. Vash, you're new, but I really love Civil War It's one of my favorite Marvel movies. I don't think it's a perfect movie, but personally for me, I really love it. And this whole series is a sequel to that. So I am enjoying seeing the chemistry. I think it's a little silly because there wasn't the barrenness. That's a phrase. Wasn't really a part of Civil War. So for him to come out and be like, "I've got a plane. I'm the Baron. Like I'm a Baron. I have lots of money."
There's definitely an element there where they're like, the comic book fans want this. Let's just give it to them. You know, because
I know the finer things in life.
He's Baron Helmut Zemo, but they, like you said, they didn't explore that title in Civil War. But you know, things like the purple mask and him gaining the Baron status, that's definitely there to like satisfy the comic book fans, I think.
Was I mistaken? He found the mask in a random car. It was like,
It was his car.
It was his car.
Those are all his
It's
cars,
all his
like,
family's his family stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way,
it adds up.
Civil War is my least favorite movie of the MCU.
You're crazy, dude.
Get out of
Oh
here.
my
You
God.
think that Iron Man 3 is a better movie than Civil War?
No, I said it's in my lower tier. It's like my least favorite. But James,
Okay, I was about to
Guys,
kick you off.
but
The
you know
show.
what?
James,
I was
but
gonna
James,
say, I think I
we
need to leave.
discuss in May and June that we would have like a tier list for the MCU's films since there will be no MCU properties coming out. So
sounds like
we will have a tier list
backpedaling.
there. But
He's like,
Look
no
at
tier,
how
no
sad
mid
you make
tier,
the Joker.
no
it's
tier. That's my mid tier.
It's in my lower tiers.
Higher mid tier.
It has no.
Interesting.
Like in my top 5.
That film,
Yeah, right?
That film should have been 2 films. They had too much story. The structure was really too much.
Too much story, too much action.
Interesting. Yeah, we'll definitely talk about this on a future episode because that's a hot take, man. Interesting.
Really?
It's a hot take.
Brian, I'm going to toss it to you. Like, what were some of your favorite moments?
Yeah, so I'll piggyback off a couple of things you guys are saying. I think Zemo and the element of comedy as well as kind of reflection and perspective that he provides, he's become this villain where it's like, okay, he's making a lot of good points that are getting through to Sam in particular, but Bucky as well on some level, I think. Obviously, they have a more complicated relationship. But Zemo, this was also my favorite episode so far, largely because of Zemo and the kind of adventure film that it became with them going through things this time. I really liked how they're kind of opening up. In previous episodes, they talked about how the Avengers got paid through like these non-governmental organizations or whatever. Now we've got the Global Repatriation Council really showing us the bureaucracy and the functional buildups of the blip and how the world is dealing with it and how you have just half a world of displaced people in some cases. I really like how they're putting us on the ground there and giving us the perspective into what the terrorist organization is coming from and where they're coming from. And that takes a very dark turn. They try to make her character sympathetic a little bit, and then she's shown to be very ruthless, and willing to take lives just like some of the other villains we've seen. So yeah, that was definitely a solid moment. I think Sam reflecting on saying he maybe should have destroyed the shield. He really is going through so much here and doesn't know how to process a new Captain America. And just to talk about new Captain America, him being this, he just seems completely different than Steve Rogers in the worst way possible. He is already from day one willing to cut corners, go against what he's supposed to stand for. And it seems like, what are you not willing to do? And it seems like maybe there's not much that he's not willing to do, which is worrisome given the power that he has.
He used a gun in his first mission. And I know Steve used a gun during World War II, but like contemporary Captain America, we never saw him use a gun ever.
Yeah, that's
Right.
different. That was wartime. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like, this is
Exactly.
not wartime. It's like Cap shouldn't be using a gun. That's why you have the shield.
Right.
Right. So aside from that, the moment when Sam gets the call when they're in the meeting in the back of the club was just peak tension and
I love
freaking
that.
me out, like just skeezing out in my seat. And the scene, Vash, you mentioned it. It's almost like an Ocean's 11 where they're talking through the heist while the heist is playing out. Amazing stuff. And lastly, the moment when Bucky goes to meet Zemo in his in prison, I got very much like Silence of the Lambs vibes,
Yeah.
Clarice and Hannibal Lecter. So I was really digging that as well.
Yeah, I love in that scene how his first his go-to, Zemo's go-to, is to immediately start reciting the words.
Oh my god! Yes.
And we get an inkling that like he already knows that Bucky has been undone. You know, the brainwashing's been undone, but he's still like, I just want to see what happens. He's experimenting, you know, which is really creepy. I agree with Vash. I think that opening scene, and Brian as well, is one of the best scenes in this whole episode, especially the way it's framed as an event that's already taken place. There's no way Sam can stop it. And like Vash said, Bucky's speaking in like hypotheticals, and then Zemo just shows up, and there's nothing Sam can do about it. I really like that. Vash, you're gonna say something?
Two things I forgot to mention that were my favorite moments. John Walker got spit in the face. That was pretty dope. Like, hey, I love that scene. That was pure gold because he's like, and also Sam, he got the balls to literally eat a ball from a snake. Literally, like
that was nasty.
And then he's staring. He's like, and the Bucky's like, "Are you gonna do it?" Like,
so you got to do it.
You got to play the role.
He's just saying, like, "You gonna do it? You gonna do it?" And then
I love these.
He like this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good job. He's like, good job, my son. Good job. I
The thumbs up killed me.
Like, yeah.
Giving the thumbs up after that killed me. It's so funny. And very out of character for the person he's supposed to be playing, clearly.
I'd rather ruin the op than drink that. I'm sorry. I would be like, I can't do that. Nope, I can't.
Just kill me.
Yeah,
just kill me now.
I'm killed.
I'd be like, nah, I'm good. I'm dying right here.
This is too much.
I mean, theoretically, someone has had it before. I mean, that was what I would think would be like, this guy eats this. All right, let's go for it.
But still, just
probably not going to kill me. Yeah.
But still, just eating a whole bowl of a snake. You literally just cut up a regular snake inside. Like, you literally had a snake inside the back of the bar right there. You literally just cut here. Just put it inside some type of rum or some type of whiskey. And just take it like a normal shot.
I think you're expecting it to be. Listen, you're expecting it to be bad, right? But the real problem would be if it's like your favorite thing, because that's really hard to get.
Chris, did you have any other favorite moments?
Yeah, I had there were two other moments that I really enjoyed, and that is Zemo's speech when they're on the plane, explaining how the dangers of putting our heroes up on a pedestal, and how that leads to cities falling from the sky, and it also leads to villains rising up like the Red Skull. There's always going to be a balance, right? Like if we have a Captain America who represents good, we're also going to get characters like Red Skull, and Baron Zemo. He's kind of a third party standing from the outside, maybe not totally completely removed because his family were victims of one of these events, but he's trying to look at it on a macro level. And he realizes that, like, truth be told, having superheroes in the world is not a positive thing because of what it leads to. You know, they might save us from some things, but they also create monsters at the same time. And I think, Sam Wilson really takes that in and begins to think about more of what that means for him picking up the mantle as Captain America. And that leads to the scene that Brian was talking about, where he's saying that he should have destroyed the shield. And I think the dynamic between Sam and Bucky in that moment represents both of their characters so well, because Sam is talking about destroying this icon. And if you notice, Bucky, his immediate go-to is like, I'll take it myself. I'll take it from you. Like, it means so much to him that he is not willing to let it go. He's not willing to let Steve go. And I'm so interested to see where these characters end up by the end of this series, because they're dealing with so much right now. It's super cool.
Yeah, I think that's why I agree that Zemo is one of the most interesting characters. That's a great point. And I think they're still using him to great effect, because at the end of the day, he's interesting because he has no superpowers at the moment. I don't know if he ever gets superpowers.
He's rich.
Not a nerd.
His superpowers being rich.
From the comics, the only thing he gets is the super soldier serum, but I'm not sure if the movie or the MCU is going to give that to him. But that's the only thing he gets from the comics. Other than that, he doesn't really get any special. He has special gear, like equipment that shoots rays and like guns and everything. But he doesn't have anything. Rays. But he doesn't have anything crazy like Thor, Iron Man, and like that. No. As
it currently stands, he's very human.
Yes.
And he doesn't have any superpowers, so the super interesting thing about him has to be he's interesting. So the writers can't rest on cool rocket boots or whatever at the moment. And then also, he's the most justified villain in the MCU, because if you think about it, his family died because the Avengers were fighting a thing that one of the Avengers made. A problem they created, they were trying to stop, right? So you'd be like, Yeah, that's probably not a good thing. I'm gonna make them kill each other from the inside. So I'm Team Zemo all the way.
All right.
Joker's
hot
Team
take.
Zemo. Go figure.
I just wanted to say, James, I'm sure you've got some more to dive into here, but Sharon absolutely kicking ass while holding off the bounty hunters was incredible. I thought that was one of my favorite fight scenes so far throughout the series, actually.
Yeah, Sharon kicked so much ass in that scene. Like that was one of my favorite
Just
moments.
so many guys. It didn't matter.
Yeah, it was like I couldn't even count. Like it was like 7, 8 guys. She just like completely marked them just completely by herself. Like that was one of my favorite moments. Like another one of the biggest takeaways from this episode for me was the doctor, right? Like the doctor after 70 years, 70 plus years, he was the one that got the closest to Erskine's formula to
Yeah.
be able to create these super soldiers and then modify it so that it doesn't require the solar rays that they needed to make Steve bulky and everything. Like, they get all of the strength, all of the benefits without all of that other stuff. So I thought that was really, really cool. And the moment we found this guy, I knew Zemo was gonna kill him because Zemo, even before the events of Age of Ultron, his entire mission was to find these Hydra cells and shut them down. This is what he's been doing. So it's like I knew he was gonna kill him, right? And I think he needed to. I'm not upset with that at all. This person needed to go, unfortunately, because we found out he was working for Hydra. Then he was picked up by the CIA, got blipped, came back, and now he's working for the power broker, right?
And once
This is the thing. Like, even if they arrested him, the government would just go back to the same thing they were doing before, trying to recreate super soldiers, trying to replace the Avengers, to create a team of soldiers that they can control, and that needed to be stopped. So I'm completely okay with that.
Yeah.
Vash, you gonna say something?
I was gonna say that once he said that he's a god, I was like, "Yo, Zemo, just kill him right now, right there." Like once he saw himself as a god, I'm like, "Nah, like you took it too far." Like once you said that you're above everyone else, I was like, "Can somebody just shoot him? Like, come on, Bucky, like just use your arm, cut off his head." Like that's when it just pissed me off. Like his
That would have
speech
been
of him-
dark.
No,
Yikes,
I
yeah.
know, but like once he kept going off his speech of what James said, like he just felt like he was the only one that could do this. And like, all right, cool. You're very egotistic. You think you're a genius. All right, cool. But the once he said, "I'm a god, I could do this," I'm like, oh my dude, you're
Full
about
on
to die,
mad
Zemo.
scientist.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you went full on mad scientist. Like just you're about to die right now, like in like probably 5 seconds. It's your fault.
And in the comics, this scientist, his backstory is a little bit different. This scientist was around during the 40s that helped with the experimentation after Cap went into the ice to try to recreate the super soldier serum.
He's the
So
one
to
that
s-
created Isaiah Bradley in the comic
Exactly.
books.
Exactly. And in this, he pretty much took the tests on Isaiah Bradley and used that data to create his new formula, which I thought was something really, really cool. And William Nagel, the doctor, he also went under a different alias, I believe is Dr. Reinstein, who was working with Thunderbolt Ross to create the super soldier serum. So when he was working for the government,
wow.
the super soldier serum that makes Abomination was from this doctor, which is insane when you think about it. They're bringing all of these different elements from across the MCU, from the comics, all together, and it's so cool. So that was actually like one of my favorite moments when I saw him. I was like, dude, that's the doctor that worked with Thunderbolt Ross, which is, and we'll get into this a little bit later, but this is why, another reason why I think that Thunderbolt Ross could potentially be the power broker, because the Accords,
Definitely possible.
they're not getting anything done. The government's not getting anything done. And Thunderbolt Ross in the comics many times has gone
That's
off on
crazy.
his own to do his own thing. Him making himself Red Hulk was completely against any orders from the government. So it wouldn't surprise me at all. So I kind of want to get into it now, and then we can go into some other things. Let's get into it. Vash, I know you were talking, we were talking in chat. Who do you think is the power broker?
All right,
I
so
think I
guess
already
so.
know who Vash thinks is the power broker. I'm excited to hear him say it though.
Chris, I want to hear who do you think I think that is the power broker?
I think you
What
might
if I think? What do I think? What Chris thinks? What Vash thinks?
Let's hear it.
I think it's Captain America, old Cap.
Okay.
Vash,
Wrong.
I want you to say it.
It's Sharon Carter.
I knew it.
Because throughout the bar they kept saying he, and I think MCU would throw a twist that's not he, it's actually a she. So that's one twist I think they would do, because how would you assume there's a he? Like, they just think that there's a king. It could also be a queen. That's the one that is watching over that is watching over Madripoor. So it could be Sharon Carter. And also at the end of the scene when she lets them leave and everything, she don't go with them, and then she meets up with a whole random chick that has been there the whole time. Like, where were you?
So sketchy.
Yeah, so sketchy. Like,
Yeah,
where
who
were
is
you
this?
there when she was finding 8 of those dogs and everything? You could have helped her, but she just did it all come back then on her own. And then she standing behind the car. Usually when you're like the like the kingpin, you always sit behind the car. So that shows storytelling. That's when you have your old type of Uber driver and everything, and that's what this chick was driving their boss, aka the broker. That's what I feel like, and that's what I feel like the story. And she has this type of resentment against right now the USA, because she technically cannot go back. She hasn't speak to her father, she hasn't speak to his family, and she doesn't have the same clearance as Avengers. Like Sam, he was on the run, or was on the run, like she said. So she has this resentment against power people. That's why she probably did this type of stealing, getting super soldier serum, and getting people to bring back. So she has this type of resentment, hate. So that's what I feel like. Does anybody agree with me? How do you guys feel about Sharon?
This might seem like a cop-out, but I think you're both right. I think that they're clearly setting it up to at least make Sharon Carter a red herring to be the power broker. I don't know if they'll go all the way, because making one of Marvel's very few female characters, like who was good, turning her into a major villain, I don't know if that tracks super well, and if it's very PC, but we'll see. I think right now the most likely candidates are both of the people that you mentioned, Sharon Carter and Thunderbolt Ross, because we could potentially be getting a Thunderbolt series or movie or something coming up here in the future. Mm-hmm. And Thaddeus Ross has been obsessed with the Super Soldier program since the birth of Captain America, since knowing about Captain America and what he did during World War II. He's been trying to replicate that serum, as James mentioned. So I think both of those people are very real candidates to be the power broker. It could end up being neither of them. We went on this huge fucking Mephisto train during WandaVision, and that came to nothing.
Who's Mephisto?
Let the speculation begin, boys. Here we go again.
You make a good point, and hear me out. Just hear me out. What if it's Agatha all along?
It was Agatha. Agatha's the fucking power broker, dude.
It's a busy moment. I just want to say, even if these speculations aren't correct, this is the reason why I love this show, to get all of your brilliant knowledge that I have no context for. So this is great. I love these speculations, even if it doesn't turn out to be these two.
But Brian,
Right.
do you have a speculation?
Sharon Carter is the power broker.
I really don't. I like the Sharon. I'm leaning towards Sharon now, because she was kind of like suspiciously just around and aware of what was going on. So I could see that.
And
Bash makes a lot of great points, though. Like, if you're a boss, you don't sit in the front seat. That's back seat all the way.
That's backseat.
Oh, yeah.
And also, she said,
you get
to the lady,
chauffeured.
we have a couple problems, because she said, "Oh, we don't have one problem. We have a couple problems." So like, why would you say and know about these problems very well? Like, there's something going on. And also, she lives in Hightown. For you to live in Hightown, and also to know that you have a lot of important artifacts of museums that's technically supposed to be real, which I love how they really made that point, because that's been in the comics very much, that Hightown is only when rich people and the big bosses live there. And yeah, she said, "Oh, I have to make a living of it." Nobody really asked her what she does. Nobody really asked her why she hosted an event. So like Sam and Bucky.
How'd she get a hold of those real Monets?
Yeah. So
where's she getting all this legitimate art, man?
Yeah, so they're stolen, right? I think it was implied that it was stolen art, right? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, but how did she do it?
But like, she must have some connections.
Correct.
She's not doing it herself.
Who are her connections?
Sure.
Who are her drug dealers? Who are her plugs?
Yeah, I think, like Nova saying in chat, I think that Sharon knows who the power broker is, but I don't personally think that it's her. The reason why I don't think that, no matter what happened to her, she had so much respect for her grandmother, and she had so much respect for Steve. I highly doubt that she would track down a scientist to start rebuilding the super soldier program. What does she gain from doing any of that? I definitely think she's been doing some shady shit to stay alive. And again, I do think that she knows who the power broker is. But to that point, like, I don't know, I have no idea, but I can't think of any like list of events that could have happened in that 5 years. And I was like, you know what? Like, I don't care what my grandmother stood for, what Steve stood for.
Yeah,
I'm
throwing it
just
all
going
out the
to
window.
start creating
Yeah, that's fair.
super soldiers. And for what reason?
It
You know
all
what I
takes
mean?
one bad day, right, Joker?
Very, very true.
I do have a legitimate question, which is in this timeline, we have Steve Rogers, who has lived a life with Peggy, right? So does that affect Sharon's history? Are we
Not
even talking?
confirmed for us as the audience. We don't know, right?
The directors and the writers have different takes on how that timeline pans out.
Oh, that sounds like
Really?
some DC shit.
Yeah, yeah. one of them says that it's the same main MCU timeline, and others say that it's an alternate timeline. So
Right.
there's no official clarification.
For me, how I see it is a whole alternative timeline, and Steve is her dad. That's how I see it, and
That makes it so creepy.
But
Yeah,
It's
then,
very
gross.
strange.
but then in this
Well, her-
timeline, but then this
granddad.
timeline,
Her granddad,
yeah,
yeah.
sorry, granddad. But then in this,
No, her great uncle, Aunt Peggy.
You're right.
That'd be a gulf.
yeah, but then in this timeline, they never kissed. So that's my assumption. That's how I see it. Hopefully, it is like that. That's how I'm putting it in my headcanon type of way. That's how I'm putting
Yeah,
it.
I personally don't buy the alternate timeline. I don't think that makes sense. Like, we're gonna get into alternate timelines once we get Loki, because we know for a fact that Loki is in a different timeline.
Right.
I think this timeline is the one that we've been following the entire time. But again, I have no confirmation. I'm not the writers team. I'm not Kevin Feige. But we'll
But-
find out.
Maybe
James, I
maybe
wanna know-
Sharon is got a Barrett Zemo thing where she's trying to get revenge on America and Captain America because Steve Rogers went back in time and fucked her grandma.
Sharon Zemo. I'm here for it.
I do want to see how she feels about that. Because I mean, like, yeah, you and Steve had a thing. You risked your career, your freedom.
Oh, she
to
got blown
give
off,
him
dude.
the
I
shield.
feel bad for her.
And then he doesn't even say goodbye. He just goes back in time
Oh,
and, and fucks your ancestor.
This
Like,
is kind of the one thing. This is kind of the one thing that makes Steve Rogers less likable. Like out of everything, I'm totally on team Captain America, but this is the one thing where I'm like, you
yeah,
didn't do
tell her
right by her.
goodbye.
That was
Like,
fucked up.
My dude want to
Real
be
player.
happy. I gotta respect it. Like my dude want to be happy. Like my dude got tired of just staring at a paper and just be like, one last dance. Like for the
he could have
past 8
said
years.
goodbye though.
He's also like,
He
you
had-
kind
but
of
he's
share the
how?
same genetics as the woman that I'm in love with. Like you're
He barely
related to
had
her in
time,
some way,
though.
so I guess you'll do.
How
Yeah,
would you
one-
feel if you fell in love with a girl and she went back in time and fucked your granddad? It just wouldn't feel good. Just wouldn't be a good experience.
As long as I
You might
don't
want to hunt
know-
down some super soldiers, serum, and extract some revenge. This makes total sense.
But James, I do want to know, what do you think
Justified.
is Ross though? Like, because you said that's your theory of who you think is the broker, right?
Yeah, I mentioned it before. I think it's him because the Accords didn't work out. The Avengers still went on to do their own thing. He was trying to make Abomination. He made Abomination without the consent of the government. He didn't consult them at all. He hates the Avengers. He wants to create a world where he can create his own super soldiers that he can actually control, that's outside of the Avengers. And while the Avengers were gone during that 5-year gap, that would have been a perfect time for him to put pieces together to find people that can make the super soldier serum. And then when everybody came back, he found Dr. Nagel, and he was able to continue that research so that he can again create an entire army that will follow the rules of the Accords, because he can't control the Avengers, right? So that's the whole thing. He wants what the government has wanted since they created Cap. Real quick side tangent. One real reason why I don't like John Walker is because he's like Gilmore Hodge from the first Captain America movie. He is the perfect soldier in every way, physical specimen, but he doesn't have the heart, which is the most important thing.
Yeah.
That's the most important part of being Captain America. And he doesn't have that. I think he is an absolute douchebag. And whenever
100%.
he does get the serum, and I think he's going to get the serum in the final
hell
episode,
yeah.
and the serum is going to turn him, it's going to take all of those bad things that are in him and amplify it to 11. And that's where he becomes US agent
Definitely.
and becomes the villain that we know. And this is where I think that Falcon and Winter Soldier might get a sequel. And the sequel will be Cap, Falcon, and Bucky going after US agent and trying to stop him and Battlestar. But we'll see where it goes when we have
I
more
agree with you,
information.
dude. I think everything that you just said about John Walker, I agree with that. But I also agree with the fact that Kevin Feige has said in interviews that there are going to be some MCU shows that will get season 2s. They will get sequel seasons. And the Falcon and the Winter Soldier is unlike WandaVision in that it's not a wholly contained story. Like when you're dealing with buddy cop characters, you could write as many seasons as you want about them, globetrotting and taking down supervillains. So I agree with you, man. I definitely think this show's more likely to get a season 2, a second run.
So Nova brings up something in chat that I didn't even consider that's actually kind of fucking insane and really cool. The Power Broker is always watching, and it could be Armin Zola. It could be Zola.
That would be cool.
Because we see the base that Zola is in gets blown up in Winter Soldier, but he's essentially a computer who says, much like Ultron, he can't just transfer himself to another computer. And Nova also brings up that as soon as the Flag Smashers steal all of the resources from the Power Broker, it's Carly, right? Carly instantly receives a text message. So It's like, that would be interesting if it's Zola. That would be really, really cool. Like, what do you guys think?
I think that would be a really cool idea. And I'm down for it. I think thinking Zola's going to be in the show is as crazy as thinking Mephisto was in WandaVision. But look, man,
it's possible.
I am here to speculate. I'm all about it. So fuck yeah, let Zola be in the show. I would love to see Toby Jones come back as like a weird robot version of himself. We've never really gotten like the true looking Zola from the comic books.
Yeah.
And we are getting a closer version of Zemo in this series to the comic books. So maybe they'll go all the way. Maybe just a big fucking screen with arms and a camera on top of his head. Like, let's do it. I'm here for it.
Props to the custom designer. Like whoever dressed up Sam, props to that, because his suit was amazing. And the way Zemo was dressing up as well, his walk as him, like, we know he's a bad guy, but he does bad guy walking very well, because it makes me believe, like, okay, I should be scared of this dude because he knows how to walk like a bad dude. And the way he dressed with a turtleneck and everything, because like he makes it look good, because usually people like 007, dress up with turtlenecks, and they're good guys, but they make it look very nice and fancy, very nice, classy. But Zemo, you're looking nice and evil, so that's great.
I want that coat, dude.
That coat, he can walk
Give me
with
that coat.
I'm
It's
sorry,
so
that
clean.
coat has not gotten dirty. I'm like, throughout the whole time him fighting fire explosion, I'm like, how that coat not even got one scratch or burn on the side or nothing? How?
Weapons grade coat. It's
There you go.
incredible stuff.
I mean, he is rich, so
This is it. Yeah.
Has to
so
do
like
with the
Batman.
microfibers in the coat. They repel dirt.
Yeah.
But any final thoughts on the Falcon and Winter Soldier episode 3 before we
I did
move
have a
on
question.
to? Yeah.
We didn't talk about the end where Winter Soldier met the Wakandan. How did he have
Oh
yeah,
shit!
Ayo.
Yeah. So he meets Ayo in an alley, and she has come for Zemo. What did you guys think about that? Because I thought that was really, really cool, and I'm actually kind of pissed at myself that as a fan I didn't see that coming, because the Wakandans failed to get what was Andy Serkis's character?
Claw.
Jaw.
Ulysses Claw.
Yeah, to get Claw. They failed to get Claw, and now Zemo's free. Zemo killed the king, bro. So they have to get justice for King T'Chaka. So Christian, I want to start with you. What did you think about that?
Lines up. lines up with the story. She's pissed, and I get it.
Yeah, I kind of had no idea that this was coming, but it makes sense. We kind of get in episode 1, Bucky reminiscing about Wakanda and it being kind of the one peaceful time of his life. And I think it's cool that we're potentially going to get some stuff that's happening in Wakanda, and it completely tracks with the revenge narrative of what Zemo's done in the past. So I didn't see it coming either, but I tend to be just clueless about this sort of stuff. But I'm definitely excited to see where it goes.
It's one of those things when you're not as into everything going on and thinking about it like you guys do so wonderfully on this show, of like she shows up and you're like, oh yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, no, she's not going to be happy.
Yeah, I thought that was a great callback because she was in Civil War with T'Challa. So I thought that was a really, really great callback to have her in this series trying to get Zemo. My thing is, what's going to happen? Is Bucky going to try to like bargain with her? Like, hey, like we're trying to accomplish something. Like, let me hold on to Zemo, and then when we're done, we'll hand him over to you. But then I think Zemo's going to escape.
He owes Wakanda so much.
He does.
Like it, I agree with you. I think that will be most likely what ends up happening. But he's in a position right now where it's really tough for him to decline any type of request that she has, because not only did they undo his brainwashing, they supplied him with a new vibranium arm, which was stronger than his original arm. Like he owes them a huge debt. So I don't foresee a situation in which he can just flat out say no. I think he'll have to deliver.
So I saw it coming because it was foreshadowed when Sam brought it up in this episode and last episode. Because when our boy Bucky said, hypothetically, if this happens, if he escapes and everything, and Sam was like, if Zemo escapes, the Wakanda won't be happy because they killed King T'Chaka, and they did this at the UN embassy. So I saw them happening, one of them coming. I just didn't expect it would be this episode. I thought it would be foreshadowed for the next episode, since usually when they speak about something, they usually gonna bring it up for next episode. But makes sense that it already popped up at the last scene because she's gonna bring up for the next 4 episodes most likely. But it's really curious to know how Bucky's gonna handle this, and I'm curious to know if IO is gonna be calling him White Tiger, not Bucky, because that's his name in Wakanda
White Wolf
as well. Oh, yeah, White Wolf. Yeah. Thank you, White Wolf. So I'm curious to know that if she's gonna be calling him White Wolf instead of Bucky. So that's gonna be very curious, and I hope that's the case since that was his name over there, instead of James or Barnes or instead of Bucky. I'm really curious to know. Hopefully they call him White Wolf instead, and I am curious to know how Bucky does his communication skills with his Wakanda people, because right now technically he needs it, because right now she's like looks like she wants to kill Zemo right now. Like she's like, hey, move out the way before I go jump over these buildings to start killing Zemo. So best of luck to Bucky, because he needs the best communication skills that he ever needed instead of staring.
Yeah,
He's gonna take over as therapist.
Like, she was outside of that building, and as a warrior, she feels like she failed. And this is her way of pretty much making up for that. So I think that's really, really cool. Like, Brian, what did you think about that scene?
About her coming back there?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, I'm definitely looking forward to see where it goes. I always involve the interconnectedness of these shows. And when you guys talked about the sequel potential for this, it's kind of blowing my mind how, in contrast to DC, they can seemingly so effortlessly, and for a casual viewer, relatively casual viewer, not see these things coming that are kind of obvious once they happen. But yeah, I think it just speaks to how masterful the intricacies of the MCU are. And yeah, it's definitely got me excited.
Yeah, I can't wait. It sucks that there's only 3 episodes left.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to be dying after this. But this series has been so good. 3 episodes in, and I feel like I've already gotten so much from just the psyche of Sam and Bucky themselves. Zemo is not just a basic villain that I think he is in the comics, right? Like, to me, Zemo in the comics is just the guy trying to live up to his dad's expectations because his dad couldn't defeat Captain America. You know what I mean? So it's like that's really interesting to me, and I really want to see like where they go. I love that the Flag Smashers are also not super generic villains. These are liberators. These are freedom fighters giving to the people that the government organization is not actually helping. They're putting them in camps. They say that they're helping them, but these people don't actually have medicine. They don't actually have the amount of food and water and the resources that they actually need. But because the government says that everything is okay, the regular people on the streets, they just believe it. They just believe the government. So I just love everything that they're doing with all of these characters. And looking back at WandaVision, it kind of makes me wish that Sword got a little bit more development, especially with it being 9 episodes and looking at what they've done in Falcon and Winter Soldier. So I'm really excited to see where it goes, man. I am loving this series so far.
We all know that Christian would have preferred that Sword be a heavier player in WandaVision.
Yeah, you know, this show is just a lot better because there is no sword.
Yet.
Oh, shut up.
Yeah, very true.
All right, so let's switch gears. This is what I've been waiting for, which is why I wanted to get you guys on the podcast so that we can do a deep dive of Zack Snyder's Justice League. We are going to go from beginning to end, just kind of talking about our the major moments, our favorite moments, things that we didn't like, but we will be going in the order of the film, just talking about it that way. I, again, love Zack Snyder's Justice League. For me, this is the best DCEU movie that they have made, hands down. It makes me really sad that we won't be getting Justice League 2 and 3 and everything else that we were going to get into the Snyderverse, because I think this movie is near perfection. There's some things that bug me here and there, but I really, really love this movie. So let's just start off with like general thoughts. Christian, I want to start with you. What were your general thoughts on Zack Snyder's Justice League?
All right, so big picture. Okay, I've got my
No,
glasses.
4-3 picture.
4-3. Yeah, we'll get to that. You know, I had been saying leading up to it that this is one of the most interesting experiments in film, in like popular film stuff. You know, we've had director's cuts for the longest time. Very famously, you got Blade Runner and, you know, other director's cuts that people argue about what's better. But we've never had someone take a blockbuster movie and then dump $80 million into it, shoot an unnecessary scene at the end, you know, 20 minutes at the end, like leading up into other films and stuff, and then release it as a wholly separate thing. So as a cultural phenomenon, it remains to be a very unique thing that's ever happened. And it definitely had the opportunity to be very terrible and for everybody involved to regret pushing this forward. Just because you're trying to rewrite people's memory of a thing they saw. And most people that are fans of Justice League saw this. And I remember I saw it and I was like, that's an okay movie. It's not great. It's very DC, but definitely disjointed. And I wasn't super psyched for this coming up. But I got more excited when I found out kind of all that was all the behind the scenes and how they were remaking it, how there was recutting, and how it was much more closer to what Zack Snyder had wanted to write. And I think it mostly is great. I think mostly it's a good thing this film exists for fans of Justice League, to get a good version of these heroes together on screen. I think for that, it's really great. I think we're comparing it to a really mediocre movie. So it's not like this movie had to be that much better. But clearly from the very get-go, you got a much better tone, much more consistent with Man of Steel, much more consistent with BVS, especially again, there's a director's cut or super cut, or, you know, there's 8 cuts of that movie.
The Ultimate Edition.
Yeah, God. And so it's much more consistent with that in some ways. In other ways, they crop the film in a different way than those 3 movies. So it definitely is more, besides the way that the movie is cropped. It is the ending of the trilogy. And I really think that Zack Snyder, although he probably had a vision for other movies and stuff, and clearly he thinks ahead, and he's alone at Warner Brothers apparently, and that, so he clearly had a plan. But knowing that it was unlikely he was gonna get more films, it's a little sad that conceptually he didn't tailor it more to be the end of a great trilogy at the end of the day, where Man of Steel is one of my favorite DC movies. And BVS isn't the extended supercut or whatever, isn't that bad. It's not great. And this movie, I think, is could be a really great ending, and in a lot of ways is disappointing. And it's again, comparing it to a bad movie, it's good, but it's also 4 hours long. And I don't really see myself popping this on. Like, I pop on Spider-Man 2. I pop on Civil War because they're like a great 2 hours of action-packed goodness. I don't see myself being like, no, before I go to bed today, it's 9 o'clock. I'm gonna put on 4 hour Snyder cut. I just don't see that being a thing.
Dude, you'll be out before the 30-minute mark.
But if we're if we're comparing, I had a hard enough time trying to get through Man of Steel again before this. The truth is, I did not. I did not revisit those movies because I fell asleep at about 45 minutes in. So there's no way I'm getting through a Snyder cut. But that being said, I'm glad it exists. I had a good time. It's overall not super bad, but I got some big nitpicks with it that I think are lessened because, again, we're comparing this to a very bad movie in some people's minds. I think it's an okay movie, but we're comparing it to a bad movie, and this is like an epic. So, yeah, there's a lot to get into, and I won't ramble any longer.
Yeah. Brian, what were some of your general thoughts on the film?
So, yeah, I saw Justice League in the theaters. Like I said earlier, I'm generally a little bit hotter on the DC movies than other people. Coming out of that one, it felt like they were just trying to do way too much in the amount of time they were doing it, and no one really got their due because we really have 3 origin stories in this one story for Aquaman, Cyborg, and The Flash. And I think that's one of the strongest things that this movie does is it gets us a lot more time with these characters to flesh out their backstory and actually introduce us to who they are as people, not just as members of the Justice League. Secondarily, Steppenwolf is leagues above what he was in the original movie. And I think he's a much more, I don't know how to talk about it, but relatively sympathetic. We get that he's got emotional struggles, maybe some like daddy issues or something that he's going through. He is the Zuko, the Prince Zuko of Darkseid's world.
Excellent
cast
reference.
out. But yeah, I think there was some really strong stuff here. And yeah, I kind of agree. 4 hours is a really long time. I've watched this pretty much in chunks 2 times full through, and I could see myself coming back to it in the future. I actually had a really good time. Some of the writing, I love really stupid dialogue, but there are times in this movie when it's like, okay, guys, this is just really silly, silly dialogue. But all in all, I thought it's absolutely gorgeous. And yeah, I really had a good time with it. I thought it was a good way to finish off the trilogy.
Yeah. Chris?
James and I have had many conversations about this movie off air. So he already knows that I'm definitely way hotter on the flick than my co-hosts, Christian and Brian are, which honestly, to me, was a huge surprise watching this and enjoying it. I would say even more than enjoying it, loving it. I loved Zack Snyder's Justice League. And I was so checked out of the DC EU by the time Justice League hit theaters in 2017. I was no longer the person that would rush out opening weekend to see any of these movies. I would wait for reviews to see if I even wanted to spend money on them. Justice League 2017, Justice League, as Christian hates me calling it. I literally waited for like a Tuesday morning to go see it for $5 with my wife. So I spent like $10 total watching this movie. And literally as soon as that movie came on screen, she turned to me and was like, "What's wrong with Henry Cavill's face?" And I knew it was going to be downhill from there. So I think it's safe to say that abomination is one of the worst pieces of art that's ever existed. That's my opinion. I know it's a strong opinion, but it's a shite movie. I'm sorry. It's so bad.
Wow. Okay.
And I never
coming from a man who's never seen Bible Man.
I haven't. You know what? I'll have to check out Bible Man now. That sounds like a real banger. Maybe
Bible
the
thumping takes a whole new turn in Bible Man. It's intense.
But yeah, that I also wasn't a huge fan of BVS. I hated the theatrical cut. Over the course of pandemic, something very strange has happened where I've like really come around on the Ultimate Edition. I like that movie now. I don't know what's happening to me, guys. I used to be the person that was like, fuck these Zack Snyder movies. But now I'm like all about him.
I knew you were going to love it because moments before, a week before the Snyder Cut released, all I'm getting is text of like, I watched the BVS extended cut and it's not so bad. I actually really like it. And I was like, you're gonna love the gist.
Yeah, it was a slow ramp up. Yep.
Christian knows me well.
There was an acceptance where he's like, I think I actually get this version of Superman. I'm like, yeah, you're primed to love this movie.
But I absolutely love the movie. When we talked about it a little bit on our show, we gave our like non-spoiler thoughts. I described this movie as epic in scope and mythic in nature because it's so much more than just a standard superhero movie. It really dives deep into this universe that Zack Snyder's trying to create. We have these really epic moments that's diving into the history of what's transpired in the DC universe that he's creating, with Zeus fighting with Ares and lanterns and all these awesome moments. It feels more like Lord of the Rings to me than it feels like a standard superhero flick. And then I think it's a mythic movie because DC has always been better at showing us a pantheon of heroes, even in the comic books. Marvel is like your average Joe's getting superpowers. They're very relatable. It takes place in our world, so they're relatable locations like New York City. It takes place in the United States. But DC has always been elsewhere, you know? And these characters are godlike. So the DC characters are less relatable, but more characters that we aspire to be. And I think Zack Snyder really kind of captured that feeling in this movie more so than he has even in his past movies. So yeah, I'm singing high praises here. I'll shut up and let you guys talk. I think it's pretty clear that I fucking love this movie.
Brian?
Oh, just general opinions?
Yeah, just general thoughts, and then we're going to dive into spoilers.
Yeah, I would definitely recommend this movie if you're a fan of the stuff that's come previously at all. I think it's a significant improvement. And yeah, Chris, to your point, I think it really does kind of mythologize these characters in a way that shows not only are they superhuman, but because of that, they have these responsibilities that really humanity depend on in some ways. And I think it really fleshes that out in a beautiful way.
Yeah, I absolutely love this film. Like I said, I think it's a near masterpiece. I do have a couple issues with the film, but once we're done going through the film itself, talking about our positives and stuff, we'll end the episode on our negatives. But I thought this, like much like Chris, I thought Justice League was a dog shit movie. The moment I saw it, that opening sequence trying to pretty much tug on the heartstrings of the audience with that video with the kids talking to Superman. And much like your wife, it's just like, what's wrong with Henry Cavill's face? It just looks really weird. A bunch of characterization is cut out. All of the good shit is cut out. The overly like sexualization of the Amazons and Diana, it's all really ridiculous, and I hate that movie with every single fiber of my being. But let's talk about this amazing 4-hour movie that I wish was 12 hours because I could just live in this world forever. So we open up with chapter 1, don't count on it, Batman, and we pretty much get the death of Superman sequence, which I thought was incredible, and it was a great like leg up from what happened at the end of BVS, right, where we get to see Superman screaming in pain, and the sound waves from his scream is going across the entire planet. That's something that you don't really see. Like, Superman is this incredibly powerful being. So thinking about how he would scream out, it's logical when you think about it in that way. So I want to, Christian, I'll start with you. What did you think about that opening sequence coming off of BVS?
Well, it clearly sets the tone much better for the type of movie we're in for, and is more consistent with the tone of, again, Man of Steel and BVS. So it's just more consistent. It's all in slow-mo. It's probably 2.5 minutes too long. But it's got a lot of credit. So, a lot of people worked on this movie. We got to see it. So it is very true to Zack Snyder. And I think that it works for this movie and works in the context of all the other movies, and certainly makes more sense than Justice League. And also is explained later in the film as, because these sound waves, they got to merge, the mother boxes were like, okay, it's go time or whatever, Dark Side and all that.
Yeah, woke them up.
Yeah, exactly. So it again, and in starting with that scene, it really is more of the tone of Zack Snyder's universe. The Superman being like the signal of hope was Joss Whedon being like, Superman means hope. And Zack Snyder was always like, yeah, that's part of it, but he's also really sad. And this is much more of like, Superman's in pain and we're feeling it, man. The earth is feeling it, and it's gonna be all slow, and we're gonna see everything really slow, and everybody's gonna be like for like ever. And that's Zack Snyder. So it works more for everything that he's done previously. And I do think the opening this first chapter and everything, I had actually watched this movie in two parts. I had watched the first 45 minutes, I watched this first chapter, and then watched the rest in one sitting, which shows you how good it kind of took off and captured me. But I felt like this was the movie that was supposed to be made. It instantly tells you like, oh, this makes more sense. It's all of it just makes way more sense as a cohesive film. So I think it works for this film.
Yeah, Brian?
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think the tone setting, especially us being so far removed from BVS at this point, just reminding us how incredible this moment was and how it really does kick off. And it actually kind of comes back in a really beautiful way towards the end that I'll get to later, the rippling of his screams. But yeah, I was immediately right back in the emotions of it. And it just shows how giant this movie is and how it's all going to look gorgeous. The slow-mo, it's a bit much at times, depending on the scene. I think it actually served its purpose really well here in the beginning to put us back and to really be a prelude to what Bruce Wayne is going through, because his guilt is kind of really a driving force of this whole movie. So just to see how incredibly emotionally powerful Superman dying was, it really is a world-shifting event.
Yeah, definitely. Vash, what were your thoughts on the opening?
I enjoy. Is something that what you guys said is something that's very disappointing, because I think I forgot where is it that I got shade thrown at me where I defended the Zack/Joss Whedon version of it for a couple of years. Now, not defend it. I was just like, hey, it's okay, it's cool.
It's not.
It's not. It's alright. I defended it. I was very disappointed. Watching this, it kind of made me regret defending it. I'm like, damn, why did I defend that shit? Now that I look back at it, like, damn, that's just trash.
Because you wanted it to be good.
Yeah,
you wanted
I did.
So bad.
The best parts of this movie, from a cinematic standpoint, were in the Whedon cut, in my opinion, with the exception of a couple key moments. I know Chris is immediately, and James are going to be immediately.
Wow.
There's a couple key moments that aren't in the Joss Whedon. But as far as like, we're jumping ahead here, but like, you got Superman waking up, that's just such a great moment. And that was in the original. And that's a cool part of that. That's a cool part of that movie. You get the action scenes from the first and from like the mid section once the team's together, and the ending scene. They're very similar. Obviously, just more cohesive. But, a lot of those moments were there in the original and were shot well and Snydery and fun, and those are still remain enjoyable here. They're just more enjoyable because the context makes a lot more sense.
And also the what I didn't notice that was not in the Zack Snyder full version and the Joss Whedon version, the song on the score, everybody knows was Snyder's version, and I really enjoyed song. I really enjoyed that song inside the Joss Whedon version. Like, it just worked for me. But I think I forgot who was the one that wrote it for that film. The one who played the score for that. Can't remember off the top of my head.
Danny Elfman composed the score for that movie.
For that, I enjoyed that score very much. For everybody knows, it was a good score. I enjoyed it. It sucks that it wasn't in the in Zack's version, but
Thank God it wasn't.
He still had great scores. Like when Aquaman was going down the water, for some reason he had to take off his shirt off. I'm like, you don't
drag, bro.
True, it was, but the music that was being sung there, overextended, could have been shorter, but it was still beautiful. A beautiful singing moment that was there. It was perfectly
overextended. That's gonna be a theme.
James, if Aquaman's concerned about drag, he'd be fucking bald.
Right?
That is
Very
true.
true.
My
Very true.
dude's hair is like literally up to his pecs or longer than
No
that.
more
Like,
man buns.
that's true. So I also confused, like literally in almost every scene, my dude had to take his shirt off just to go inside the water. I'm like, you could just take it off in the water, but you just want to be shirtless just because you want to be shirtless. Like, we get it. You have a great fucking bod for
Yeah,
a man
if
that
you
looks
were
like-
Jason Momoa and you work that hard, you're taking your shirt off.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
You're gonna make
Definitely.
it. You're gonna make that body work.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like, I get
Yeah.
it. Like, I wish I could have that bod at that age, because I think he's like the 35, 40. So if you have that bod, I get it. Totally respect.
Oh wow.
You think this shirt would be on if Jason Momoa was underneath?
I used to have the bod, but like more in a slimmer version. But over the years, I gained
More like a Bruce Lee build.
yeah, like a Bruce Lee build. I had a
There you
six
go.
pack, packs and everything, but somehow life happens. I did not
Can't
become
quite
athletic
figure
anymore.
out why I can't get there again.
Chris, I'm gonna toss it to you, and once you're done answering, I also want to know your thoughts on the sequence with Batman recruiting Aquaman and how you like the difference between the Whedon cut and the Snyder cut.
I hear you speak to fishes.
So to start with the Superman opening, you guys have said some of the best reasons why this opening is better than Joss Whedon's version. So I won't speak to it too long. But one of the things I really like about the 3 DC films that Snyder has made is at the beginning of each film, he's always shown us an element of the last film from a different perspective. So we see the events of Man of Steel through Bruce Wayne's eyes in BVS. And then we kind of see Superman's death through Lois Lane's eyes at the beginning of Justice League. And I really do appreciate it. There's a cohesion there that I really like. This truly does feel like a trilogy. And that's one of the reasons why it feels like a trilogy. In terms of Batman recruiting Aquaman, tonally, this is a better edit. I think they could show both of these films side by side in film school to illustrate how much editing impacts storytelling, and how the editor truly is kind of like the last line of defense when it comes to crafting a strong story when you're making movies. Some might complain that maybe the sweeping camera shots of Bruce Wayne walking through the mountains with a horse to get to the village lasted a little too long. But overall, like Christian said, it's tonally in line with the rest of the film. We don't have this ridiculous like painting of the mother boxes in a random bar in this fishing village for some reason. Because now we know that Superman awoke the mother boxes. That makes way more sense than it just being kind of like a random occurrence in the original cut. But overall, this is a way better scene. And immediately, watching this scene, I was immediately like, this is awesome. And I love it. Like, I was fully invested.
What you said about, the difference between, edits and the difference in filmmaking perspectives, it's as simple as the Joss Whedon cut is someone trying to fix a movie, and the Snyder cut is someone making his movie,
right?
And it's very obvious throughout, based on like what you said.
But also,
Fix.
it's crazy how his roar or his battle cry, him dying, literally went across the whole planet to wake up the other mother boxer. Like that's freaking wild. Like, for him to actually wake up alien type of species, that's AI type of thing, just because of him dying. Right, that's crazy too.
Yeah. Brian, what were your thoughts on the differences like between that sequence with Batman recruiting Aquaman? Well, trying to anyway.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed this sequence. Chris, to your point about there's probably 4 or 5 too many shots of Bruce going, but they're all gorgeous shots. I can't deny that.
Those are
beautiful.
the Lord of the Rings elements that I was talking about.
And it's there. It's undeniably there. I will say Aquaman has some of my favorite lines throughout the entirety of the movie. This one where he's like, dressed like a bat. You're out of your mind, Bruce Wayne. And it's just like, this is the perfect response to someone telling you that they're Batman. It's just, I completely relate with Arthur at this point. He is kind of out of his mind. But yeah, I think in general, the scene plays well and provides a good, will they, won't they for Arthur. And I like how, since I am kind of a fan of Aquaman now, I really like how this sets up and kind of hints at, as we go later through more with, is her name Mara? I'm terrible with names. Mara,
Mira, yeah.
So yeah, as Mira's talking about like the politics of the current ruler of Atlantis and how that plays into what we see in Aquaman, I really thought it was really well fleshed out and gave Arthur a backstory that was severely lacking in the previous version.
Yeah, like Chris alluded to, like I hate the idea that they thought they needed to put this random picture of the mother boxes in this random fishing town to it just doesn't make any sense, right? And also a
It
thing
makes
in the
perfect sense. Warner Brothers said your movie's 3.5, 4 hours long, and he
Gotta
left
work it
the
in some way.
project, and they didn't have 45 minutes to do this like old battle that happened between the.
It makes
between
perfect
the
sense
old
on a
heroes.
meta-contextual production
Yes.
level.
It makes sense because Joss Whedon was having to be like, I still have to tell, like, the movie is the movie, and he's like, let's explain the mother boxes instead of Cyborg having 45 minutes to like expedite. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck it is. He's like, let's put it on the wall. We'll hint at it, right? It's someone like, just like quickly rubbing paint over the wooden frame to be like, this will make sense.
It doesn't at all. It's so dumb. I also hate that every time a parademon dies, they also create
Right.
a mother box symbol. Like if they die against a wall, it creates a symbol. I'm like, this
I
doesn't
didn't
make
even
any
remember
sense.
that. Oh my god.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. When Batman gets the guy that was robbing like whatever store, like jewelry store, whatever it was, like he grabs the guy and he uses him to bait a parademon, because in the Whedon cut, the parademons are attracted to fear. They can smell fear.
Stupid as shit.
It's so dumb, bro. I
forgot
really hate
about
that. Yeah.
That's really stupid.
In the Snyder cut, the only thing that I would cut from that Aquaman sequence is them I guess like the villagers singing like whatever chant
You
they're
didn't like
singing
that
to
bit?
Aquaman, and then
Why
like
not?
the woman sniffs his sweater and stuff. Like you could have cut that out. I would have been okay with that.
Do
All
not
the
cut
Bjorks.
out the whole song because I did like the song, but they could have leave it for 20
Yeah.
seconds, 30 seconds
Yeah.
max.
Yeah.
They didn't have to leave it for a whole minute and a half and then show her.
I do have to say, I really like the transition from them singing to Martha Kent leaving the
Yes.
farm for the first time. I think the overlay with the song does make a really beautiful moment with her, giving up her home.
It's a beautiful moment. It's the moment you realize that it is not the Snyder cut. It's the Snyder shot. It's the Snyder shot it, and it's in the film. Nothing is cut. We are singing the hymns, and that's what I was like, oh, I'm down for this weird experiment. It's
Hashtag release the Snyder shots.
it's the Snyder shot. It's like, yeah, we had all these people singing, and it's going to be in the movie now because it's going on HBO Max, and also we're putting it in 4:3.
But I think, to its credit, I think it is one of the moments that shows that Arthur is this mythic, godlike figure who is known across the globe in different ways and is almost worshipped on some level. So I think it does work there. But yeah, like a lot of this movie, it could be half as long and be just as effective.
No, it's not pointless. It's not
Yeah,
just
no.
there to be there. It does have a point, right?
Yeah, I don't mind them worshiping him, but how they would know about the mother boxes doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
Agreed.
That's not something that's been told throughout time. Like the point was for the legend of the mother boxes to be lost so that they're never found again. So the fact that they would even know about all three, you could have sold me if they knew about the one from Atlantis, right? It still doesn't make sense.
Sure.
It still doesn't make sense to me personally, but I would have said, you know what? Sure, fuck it. Sure, they knew about that one mother box. Because not
Right.
even Arthur knew about the mother box before he went to Atlantis and Mira told him about it. Not even he knew. So how would these people know about this that was buried and forgotten like
I have a
hundreds to thousands of years prior?
I have a theory. This is the watering hole for Aquaman, right? Could have been the watering hole for, the king of Atlantis. And got a little too drunk, ran his mouth, spilled the beans on the mother box. whole town knew.
mother box.
I gotta tell you, do you guys have any tuna? Fuck it, I like them. Don't mess with my friends. Anyway,
You want to see my trident? It's this big.
My mother box's name was Martha. And there was 3 of them. Draw it on. Hey, no. Teddy, draw it on the wall.
I don't want to
it for
forget
'em.
this.
There's
That's it.
3 of
The
them.
origin story.
And it's real simple. They're boxes.
I think
Like,
you nailed
it's-
it, Christian. That's it. We fixed Justice League.
So jumping forward a little bit, I want to get to that amazing Wonder Woman sequence where she fights against those terrorists. Oh my god. So that was one of the scenes that I quite enjoyed in the Justice League cut, right? I really enjoyed that sequence, even though it was clearly different from the trailer. But I love this. It was a lot bloodier. I love to see Wonder Woman in action, moving so fast, her using her strength, her speed, all of that stuff, using the lasso, everything to its full potential. So, Vash, I actually want to start with you. How did you feel about that sequence, and how do you feel it compares to the Whedon cut?
Every time you ask me compared to the Whedon cut, I'm sorry, James, but I literally have forgotten how that movie compares to this, so I cannot give you a great answer to that. So I'm gonna skip that part of the question for now. But what I'm gonna say is that this sequence was amazing. The music, the score of her is fantastic. But what I do remember from the Joss Whedon cut is that he cam shot a lot of her thigh and ass cheeks during that fight scene. I do remember that. In this version of Zack Snyder, it was more of the brawl, her throwing people up in the air like no tomorrow, like literally. Like I get it, the bad guys, but you just tell us just. You're really just killing people right now, girl. You just threw them up in there. Like, I get it, the bad guys, but damn.
Dude, she vaporizes that last dude.
Oh, yeah.
All that's left is his hat.
Bam. I'm like, okay.
Completely absurd. Totally unnecessary.
And the cops are just like,
so
we're okay with this.
We're going to avoid this 4-block explosion. But we're going to create a 3-block explosion instead.
Like, Diana, like, we get it. You just protecting people, but you cause more property damage than actually helping people. So, we get it, Diana, but you need to learn a lesson.
He was going to kill kids, bro. He needed to
I get it. Murdered. I was laughing on Twitter when the movie came out that weekend, and a lot of people kept saying, like, so Diana told a little girl when she asked, can I be just like you? And everybody was like, Wonder Woman is a Themyscira woman that's made of clay, and she's a god, technically. And she just told the girl, yeah, you could be anybody you want, everything, just like me, too. I'm like, I get the point of this, but how everybody was so mad that she said, yeah, you could be anybody you want. Like, you cannot technically be Diana because she's made of clay, but you could be anybody you want, girl. So I was just laughing.
But that's still like uplifting advice that you give to a child.
It's beautiful.
You know?
Like, I accepted that, but I love how Twitter and everybody else was like, oh, that's bad advice because you're a god. And I'm like, that's the point. These people, these kids, these humans see them as something to be uplifted. There's this hope, there's hope down the tunnel. So, like, these kids were about to die. Literally,
what is she going to do? Laugh in this little girl's face and go, oh, no, I'm a god. You can never be like
right?
Unattainable. Sorry.
But you're welcome for saving your life.
Like, that's like it's hurting the little girl.
It's like, is your dad also Zeus? Because if he's not, then you can't.
Right.
Right? That's so mean.
Yeah.
But I love that scene. The fight, she did cause a lot of property damage. But overall, this fight sequence was amazing. And the score, how it's done. And I love how the next scene is where she'd be like, hey, so Diana, what did you do over the weekend? And she just rebuilding a whole statue again.
Nothing interesting.
Nothing interesting. I'm like, girl, you just did a whole property damage, probably 5 blocks away from here. Like, what are you talking about? That you didn't do nothing. What?
Also,
Brian,
you don't wear a mask. It's a Superman problem of like, no, I'm pretty sure I saw you at the bank on Fifth. On Fifth,
pretty
you
sure.
You were standing on top of the.
It's the tiara, bro.
Yeah,
that's
the
difference.
And but the outfit, the outfit really,
and her hair too.
Heels,
she wears her hair down.
Yeah, the high heels really does a big difference. Like, yeah, Diana doesn't wear high heels, just like in Wonder Woman 1984. Like, that does not look like her, all right? Question.
Brian, I'm going to
so
toss
funny.
it to you. Like, how did you feel about that sequence and how it compares to the Justice cut?
So I'm kind of similarly, I don't have too great of a memory as the difference. I remember it being maybe a little bit lighter in tone than this one was. What I appreciated about it, though, I think, and it was, the stuff I like is similar to the Justice League cut, but this is one of my favorite Diana moments. I think this really shows her at her best as a hero. The blocking the bullets, I've watched it twice now, and it just blows my mind every time. It's so sick. It's so perfect. And it's better than anything in Wonder Woman 84 for me. I had a lot of fun with the mall scene. I think it's a little bit over the top and silly. Tonally, this one's a lot more serious, but yeah, this is one of my favorite Diana moments in any of the movies that she's in the DCEU, aside from the completely unnecessary explosion that she caused. And then when she has one guy left, it's like, you have one guy left. You don't need to do this big explosion. I will say, Zack Snyder was intending that little girl to become a future version of the cheetah. The next thing was she wanted to be an apex predator. Yeah. No, this is. I'm just trolling. I'm so sorry.
Brian with another one of his crazy theories.
You had me for like
canon.
2
That's
seconds.
Canon.
I'd be like, oh shit, that could technically be another cheetah, because technically she said, can I be like,
Baby
like, oh
cheetah.
shit, technically that could be true.
Brian,
That'd be
some
the
advice.
Wow.
When you go on a tangent, just commit and let it be weird.
Christian, what about you? Like, how did you feel about this sequence, and how did you feel like it compared?
You know, having seen Justice, oh God, I just said it.
Say it.
Having
Yes.
seen the 2017 Justice League release, directed by Zack Snyder, but technically recut and reshot by Joss Whedon, I didn't notice much difference other than the tone of the whole thing. Right, it's slower to like start. But it did remind me, the one takeaway I did have, especially coming off Wonder Woman 1984, was just how much better Zack Snyder conveys like inhuman super speed and strength. I've always said Man of Steel is my favorite Dragon Ball Z movie, because it was one of the first movies I ever saw that did superhuman dexterity and strength in a way that made you feel like these characters were just like unstoppable, right? Seeing the Kryptonians fight each other was like seeing two Super Saiyans go at it, like super quick, and the way it's shot is super awesome. And I really just way more dig Diana in this movie than Wonder Woman 1984. Everything in that movie is like floaty, like no one weighs anything and everything's all up in the air. And this is just Diana like running in and just like literally like just checking someone like right against the wall, and then just being so insanely fast. But like when she stops, it's like the amount of force that her body weighs with how fast she's going, with how strong she would have to take to stop herself from being that speed, would lift the ground off. And Snyder is in my opinion a master, and no one has done just inhuman strength and speed like that before. And for that, it needs to be commended. And this points that out really well. And her ability to like block bullets, like Brian was saying, it's all super great. I think when she looks at the little girl, it goes like, you can be whatever you want. That's cute. Whatever. It's cheeky.
Yeah, that's big facts, dude. And we'll talk about it a little bit later once we get to the Flash sequence. But Chris, I'm gonna toss it to you. Same question.
Yeah, everything that you guys have said. The color grading for this scene is so drastically different than from the original Justice League cut. Like, obviously, it's Zack Snyder. It's a little more muted than the original Justice League. But I think the two things that stick out to me most, other than her being a super badass and deflecting all those bullets in this scene, is her talking to the little girl, as we mentioned prior. That was not in Justice League. And this is the first of many things that I look at in this movie and I go, why'd you cut that? That's a very human moment. Why did you cut that? That would have made all these characters way more relatable. I don't understand the logic behind cutting some of the things that they did. It makes no sense to me. It would have made it a better movie. And then, of course, the way she throws the briefcase into the air is different. In the original film, she just throws the briefcase through the ceiling and it explodes above the building. In this new cut, she leaps through the ceiling and then throws the briefcase, and we get this really epic moment, this great
awesome
utilization of the 4:3 screen, the 4:3 aspect ratio, where we see the briefcase, a gap, Wonder Woman, a gap, and then the building. And it's the first of many shots where I'm like, Zack Snyder is a visual master. Like, you cannot deny how he's mastered framing. That is one of his strengths. And I think that it's just such a better way to frame that shot than what they did in the original. But I understand the original, they were like, get it to 2 hours, whatever you have to do. Like, we do not care. Just have her throw the briefcase and be done with it. You know, but I think those are elements of this scene that are much, much better than the original one.
Yeah, what pisses me off is with the Justice League cut, it's clear that it's just like, oh, it's the Justice League, so we don't have to give them characterization. They're fun comic book characters, and people are just going to show up. This movie is going to make $1 billion, even though we haven't tried anything. And it's just going to be awesome. Like, and we're going to get into it here in a second. But the characterization of Steppenwolf and his motivations, they're just all gone. He's just in the Joss Whedon cut, he's just this super generic villain who wants to combine the mother boxes for the Unity for his master, and that's it. There's nothing else to him. There's nothing. I know, mother. I must combine the unity. I hate it. I hate it. It's so dumb. I hate the dialogue. It's all terrible. So another thing that really pissed me off, and we're going to jump into the very next scene, which is the mother box is starting to wake up in Themyscira, and we get this amazing battle between the Amazons and Steppenwolf. And it is so brutal. It is so bloody. I love this sequence because you actually feel the sacrifice of the Amazons that put their lives on the line to make sure that Steppenwolf wouldn't get this mother box. One of my favorite moments of this entire movie is when Steppenwolf is talking to Hippolyta, and he tells her he's going to like feast on their fear or something, and she's like, "Daughters of Themyscira, show him your fear. We have no fear." Bro,
so
that
epic.
was straight out of 300, and I loved it. Spartans, what is your profession? Oh, bro, I lost my shit during that scene. That was one of my favorite moments of this entire movie. Again, the sacrifice of these amazing warriors was completely glossed over in the Whedon cut. They sacrificed their lives and you felt nothing. You saw nothing. And this is what Zack Snyder does so well and why I love him. So, Christian, I'm going to toss it to you first. What did
His
you
face
think?
looks so bored. He's like, this movie.
He's in character.
What did you think of the new sequence between the Amazons and Steppenwolf?
So I can imagine, and I trust you, that you've watched it and it's better in this version. And so I will not succumb to denying that. I think everything in this movie is better, as I stated previously. But the effect, again, wasn't largely unchanged. This was the first 45 that I watched, and this was in it. And I was like, I remember all this. I remember like when the Have No Fear, that's definitely a moment that sticks out. And that sounds like it wasn't in the original. But I remembered it didn't seem something new. So the message of the scene came across to me, but definitely comparing them, right back to front. I think you would notice something like that because that is a high point of that scene. So I think that's a great call out for why this is better. But largely, I remember a bunch of Amazonians playing tag or catch the ball. The same thing Black Panther was doing at the end game, with the mother box. And I remember that scene being just like that. So I can't say watching it and being like, oh, this is the Snyder vision, that it was any better. I'm sure it's better. All the action scenes is, this is a good place for me to start talking about the 4:3 aspect ratio. There are plenty of scenes and plenty of moments in this that the 4:3 is a cool framing way to see the scene as Zack Snyder has seen it. And he knows way more about visual storytelling than I'll ever know. So I reserve all kudos to him. But this is when it started to happen, when I was like, wow, I really just wish my whole screen was full of action, because I bought this really expensive TV and I'm only using, 70% of it. And it's making me just consciously question why this is the case. So that was like the frustrating thing about the first action scene. It's something you quickly get over and you stop paying attention to it. It's really not that big of a deal. But this was the first start of me going like, why isn't this filling my screen? And me like looking for reasons. And they're there throughout the movie. There's not many though. There's not many that you're like, wow, the movie would suck ass if it didn't fill your screen. I'm telling you, if it filled your screen, fuck it. I'm done. I'm out. It's too much screen for this movie. I'm not seeing the tops. And I just didn't this was the first time I was like, I'm not buying this whole 4:3 as the way I should watch this entire movie. Because like you're watching action pan from right to left, and it just looks better when your big expensive TV is filled.
Yeah.
But
Brian,
those Amazons were fucking awesome, weren't they?
right? Brian, what did you think about that scene?
I thought it was really great. I think it's the first time where we see Steppenwolf. Christian, to your point earlier about things feeling floaty sometimes in some of these movies, Steppenwolf has so much weight in this movie, and he is throwing it around and just beating so much ass here. And the
that armor
brutality
is so much better. It's
oh
very
my
cool.
gosh, his whole breathing suit, he looks amazing. They've changed his voice a bit as well. It's a lot more I don't know, put through some sort of filter or
It's
something.
like more gravelly.
Yeah. I think the moment when they when they're trying to obviously get the box away, and one of the characters shoots an arrow that has the box tied to it. I really liked that moment. I was like, oh wow, that's a really there's ingenuity in that solution. And then Steppenwolf is just like, yeah, that means nothing. I could just leap giant distances, just showing how formidable of an enemy he is from the get-go with these incredibly powerful Amazons. One nitpick to their game plan: why would they not blow up this building or something, putting it into the water? I mean, who is this going to kill, really? It seemed like a little bit of a faulty destruction plan for all the Amazon women they sacrificed in the process. But overall, yeah, this is the point where I was like, oh shit, all right, this movie is getting wild.
Yeah, I mean, you make a really good point, Brian. Like, why didn't they do something else other than locking him inside and then dropping it into the ocean? I didn't even consider that, honestly.
Yeah,
They're an ancient people. They don't know any better.
Also, those systems haven't been updated in a while. It's like having to go in and fix the back end of like Windows XP. You're like, uh-oh, ooh boy. This has not been touched in millennia.
Chris, I want to get your thoughts on this scene, then I'll toss it to Vash.
Yeah, I thought the scene was really cool. Everything that you guys said is exactly how I feel as well. I actually love Steppenwolf's entrance, though. The first time he enters the temple with the mother box, and he's just like, I've come to convert you to the great darkness. And the way that he says it, immediately I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be an awesome Steppenwolf. Like, I'm so excited for this.
See, Chris, it's funny you bring that up, because this rewatching it, part of it today, it almost felt to me like this was just like he was just bored at work. He's like, I've come to bring you to the darkness, and yeah, you're gonna fall just like all the other planets.
Like, you might be onto something though, man, because he has like he's been tasked with converting 50,000 worlds for Darkseid. So
Right.
you can imagine this is probably like the 10,000th time he's entered a world.
We did
and
3
said that
planets
same
this
line.
week already. Come on, guys, let's knock this out.
Like, I can't believe I'm saying, yeah, I'm here to convert you to the great darkness. Can we just give me the mother boxes? But I really do. I like his entrance.
The whole eternal darkness thing.
Just let's make this. Show me your fear. Let's make this easier than it has to be. But yeah, that whole sequence is badass. And I love when, Brian, you're mentioning the moment where the one Amazonian fires the arrow with the mother box attached. And as she's firing it, you can see Steppenwolf coming down with his axe.
Oh.
And the electricity from his axe is like entering her body. And you can see the lightning like coming. She's like in the process of dying, basically, as she's launching this arrow. I just thought it was super cool.
Yeah, really cool. Vash?
I love it. These fight, them saying we have no fear, and our boy Steppenwolf looks much better in this film than Joss Whedon version, and my boy was kicking ass, but they did not give up, and that's the most important thing. These women, like, they fought to the end. Some of them died, some of them lived, some of them have broken ribs, broken legs, and broken bones, because they knew what is a warrior in this island of the mascara. The queen knew what to do, and she knew that she needed to tell her daughter Diana. The arrow thing was pretty dope, and to know that when Diana found it, there's a whole secret tunnel to tell her the story about Darkseid was amazing. But this fight with Steppenwolf was amazing, and I just love the slow-mo shots during the fight inside the little small dome, I guess, right?
Yeah,
Dome?
the chamber, yeah.
Yeah, chamber. I love that fight between like the slow-mo shots when the arrow and the girls were going under him, and like the slow-mo shots was amazing. And when the queen told the girls, like, yo, those girls that were breaking the wall, those were some brick bodybuilders woman. Like, that was beautiful.
Oh yeah, there's a
And-
shot of one of them, and she has like a 6-pack, well defined. I was like, damn, these are scary women.
Yeah, like them just go slow-mo going, duh, duh. I was like, all right, girls, you got this. Break the brick. and then the queen just going slow-mo right there under. I'm like, "Hi, queen." For a second, I thought she was not gonna make it. Like, oh, girl, about to get squeezed. Oh no, oh no, girl live. All right, cool. And then I felt bad for those horses too. Like, yo, those horses got
For real. The
beat
real
up and
victims.
thrown away. So I was wild as hell. But overall, I was really satisfied with this fight. Like, I think that's the first time I told James in the text. I think like I told him that I shed a tear, right, James? I think I told you like I shed a tear during the scene because like it was beautiful. It was very cinematic. I do agree with Christian a bit that he didn't like. I wish they had two versions of the film, where one version of how Zack wanted to put it, like the 4:3 ratio, and the way where he didn't need to have the blackboards. I wish they would have, to have two versions of it.
Vash, he only got $80 million. Okay.
Only.
True. He did.
Shoestring.
He
budget
did.
here.
But the thing is that if HBO Max could have two versions of BVS where they have the regular version and the ultimate cut, they could have, the Zack Snyder 4:3 ratio and the one where he doesn't need the 4:3 ratio, which I wish we could have gotten up. But
Am I wrong about this? But we're gonna get a version that's black and white.
Oh, it's already out. Justice
out
is
already,
gray,
yeah.
baby.
Oh my
Justice
God.
is gray.
Okay, wait.
I will be
Side
watching that
change
this
it.
weekend.
Okay, you haven't watched it yet. I'm interested to see what people think of it because it's already a very kind of dark movie. It seems like this might take away a good
I'm
deal.
interested
But
to see it because black and white films have never been my thing because I watch it for class and I had to study it, and I was just so bored. Like I fell asleep for a lot of black and white films, but
Well,
Jason
you just
didn't.
wait. Next week, he's releasing the podcast version where it's all audio, baby.
Justice is sound. That's what he's calling it.
But
So,
overall,
I like that.
I enjoyed this very much for this Themyscira fight and everything, James.
Yeah. So the next sequence that I want to talk about also comes with a few of my negatives. So the next sequence that I wanted to talk about is when Aquaman goes to, I guess Atlantis adjacent, and he's staring at who I can only assume is Atlan, right? And this is where I have the biggest issue with the DCEU is that it's clear there's no conversations about continuity, right? The Joss Whedon version of Justice League came out a year before Aquaman, and nothing between Aquaman's like lore in Justice League matches anything in James Wan's movie. Mira has an accent. Mira's parents are dead. Apparently Aquaman's mother left him on the steps of his father's home. None of that is in James Wan's movie. None of it is.
Isn't
bubbles.
Atlan's
part-
statue guarded by like a Julie Andrews monster or something?
Exactly. So it's like that's not even a
Julie
thing.
Andrews did the voice of that monster.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like why didn't you have a conversation of what the lore was going to be so that everything can be consistent? Everything is so different. So we get the conversation between Aquaman and Volko, with Volko trying to get him to take his mother's trident and be the king that he's supposed to be. But it's just like, it bugs me so much that the lore is just so different. Christian, I know you said you haven't seen the Aquaman movie yet, right? You're on mute.
You're mute.
You're muted.
That's probably why you can't hear me. I did that on purpose to confuse you. Yeah, I haven't seen all of the Aquaman movie, but I have exclusive audio from the meeting between James Wan and Warner Brothers. You guys want to hear it? I swear to God. I swear to God, this is 100%.
Sure.
Hold on. Let me just, I got to put this on. Hey, James, thanks for coming in. We really appreciate it. Yeah, I'm really excited to do Aquaman. Just one question. How long is this fucking movie going to be? I was thinking like a tight hour 45, maybe 2:15 if we want the extra special. Yeah, you're hired.
Wow, that is breaking.
Revealing.
This has never been,
That's
never been
revealing.
heard.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't
It
share
makes
that
so
with
much
anybody.
sense now.
I will get in trouble.
But it just bugged me, all of the inconsistencies. Like Atlan is just like chilling, and it's just like a statue of him, where in the Aquaman movie it's actually Atlan in that spot. So it's just really, really weird. So for those of you that have seen the Aquaman movie, like, how do you feel about the inconsistencies surrounding like the differences between Aquaman and this?
I can't blame them or blame Zack because they never had a type of trajectory of where they're going with these films. They don't really discuss of continuity like MCU. Kevin Feige does like to know, each thing's like if they need to retcon it, they know that they need to discuss it with the other directors. Give the main plot lines of what the film's gonna be, and then those directors could do whatever they want with those films. But with DC, like, I was upset when I saw it because how did he know where the trident was and everything? Because in the Aquaman film, he had to get there through the trench. But in this film and everything, like, it just was just dead. Like, he just literally just walked by. I'm like, how do you know where it was? But at the same time, I can't be that upset with, like, yeah, I'm disappointed. I dislike the scene. But at the same time, it's more like they probably retcon it, they probably fix it, and James Wan did a better storytelling with that better type of perspective of it. But at the end of the day, they never had a great trajectory where these films were gonna be connected in the first place. So then they did like, okay, sure, you did whatever you want to do, cool.
Yeah, I feel like personally, there's got to be some issues with what Zack Snyder was intending. I got to imagine that had he stayed on the project, there would have been some more communication between him and James Wan, and maybe things would have worked out differently. With the fact that reshoots were only for that last chunk, there's only so much you can do to work out those types of inconsistencies, I think. For me, I don't know if I paid close enough attention for this stuff to really bother me. I thought this did from what I remember about the Aquaman movie, I thought this in general, maybe not this scene in particular, did a pretty good job of leading us into where Arthur is in that movie. What do you guys think of Willem Dafoe playing this role? Just real quick, how do you feel about that? There's a couple of interesting casting choices in the movie. Yeah, I'm here for it as well.
I think he's a good choice.
Yeah, I think he plays the mentor role to Arthur really well. He's the guy that trained him, and he wants to get him back to come back and be the king. So it's like, I think he does a great job.
The one weird retcon thing in Aquaman, they don't need to have air bubbles to talk,
They
right?
don't use the talk bubbles.
I think that's just functionally a very smart move, just from a watching perspective. So I'm kind of okay with that sort of retconning.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with
it. Is silly, obviously.
I agree with Brian about that.
It also brings up these like funny things of like angrily like shutting the door or hanging up the phone, right? Those are dramatic ways to end conversations. But in
right.
Aqua Atlantis land, they're just like
just close the
water.
Don't you close that bubble on me?
So I have to say, and I might get some hate for this, and I know James and Brian like Aquaman way more than I do. Aquaman for me falls, and Vash likes it too. Aquaman for me falls at the bottom of my DCEU films. I did not like it at all.
So it's like Civil War for me.
Yeah, it's exactly like Civil War.
It's below Suicide Squad for you, Chris.
No, absolutely not. No. Okay, but I'm saying it's like in the bottom 2, bottom 3.
So you're telling me
mid-tier,
lower mid-tier. You're telling me that Arthur riding a Kraken wasn't the greatest thing you've ever seen in your life?
Doing it for me.
And him wearing a yellow suit and green pants.
He looked
did not work for you?
amazing, bro.
It was not
doing my shit.
I might have to give it a second chance, but upon first viewing of that film, I was like, these characters look like video game characters.
Chris, I'm with you as someone who turned it off halfway through. Was like, this movie's goofy.
Yeah, I couldn't deal with it. And I know, James, you really hate the talk bubbles. What Christian just mentioned about being able to hang up on people underwater, that makes me love the talk bubbles even more. But I think what Zack Snyder's doing with Atlantis and his Justice League, it makes Atlantis feel like a place that could exist, you know? And I just think
the shittiest place to live.
Yes, but it's something like, yes, the Aquaman movie is fantasy and it's bright. And you could argue the same thing for that movie as well. James Wan created a place that feels like it could exist. But I think some of the elements that Zack Snyder has added into Justice League, this is goofy as fuck. But the fact that they sound like dolphins before they open up the talk bubbles, that detail, it makes it feel like a real place. You know, they as an underwater species, you have to use sound waves to communicate with each other, unless you're going to open up this like oxygen pocket and talk like humans with your vocal cords. So I mean, like, logistically it makes sense. Like I said, it's super silly, but at least the Atlanteans feel like a species, you know, that could potentially exist in the real world. So I dug everything he was doing. I actually prefer Mira as a Brit than with her American accent in the Aquaman movie. I'll have to give it another chance, but
Wait, she has a different
it was too
accent?
goofy for me.
She has a
Oh
different
yeah,
accent.
bro. She has an
Yeah, she's a
American
different
accent.
accent.
Yeah, that adds up. That's pretty DCU.
I can't wait for her to no longer be in this universe, but that's another conversation.
I do wonder who's
That's
going to replace her too.
that's some inside baseball stuff, you know.
Yeah. But I want to jump into the next sequence where Diana tells Bruce about the story of Darkseid and when he came to Earth thousands of years ago. I love this extended sequence. I love getting to see Zeus, Ares, Artemis, Atlan, all of the Amazons. It was great to see Antiope come back. It was great to see the actual scale of this battle, watching the Green Lantern fight against Darkseid one-on-one, even though he got the work. But it was great to see that extended sequence, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it. Brian, I want to start with you. What did you think about the sequence, and how do you think it kind of compares to the Whedon cut?
Yeah, just to start with tying it back to Atlantis, I love this idea of deep human history or deep history on Earth, and how there was this time where all these various people lived in relative harmony together and came together in this moment to defeat this guy. I think it is the one, maybe one of two moments in the movie where I thought the CG was a little bit questionable for some of the characters. I don't know if you guys felt similarly with Zeus and some of those. It felt a little bit shoddy for me, but conceptually, I was totally here for it. And to, again, provide context to Darkseid's history, this is the one that got away, the one thing that always stood in his way. So I think it works on many levels, giving us real fleshed out villains and giving us history of Earth and Atlantis pre-sinking. So yeah, I really enjoyed that scene.
Yeah, Chris?
I prefer this version. I like that they framed it in a way where Bruce and Diana are speaking in the Flying Fox instead of like strolling along a lake outside, because they keep reminding us that this vehicle is something that Bruce is working on. He's trying to get it up and running, and we have a payoff for that later on in the film. Cyborg gets it up and running, which is an awesome moment. In terms of the flashback and getting to see, humans fighting with lanterns, fighting with Atlanteans, fighting with gods, that's just epic. That's one of those epic Lord of the Rings moments that I was talking about earlier. And like Brian said, it adds to the world building and it gives you a sense of history. And I really dig that. I'm totally spacing on the actor's name, but the guy that plays Ares in the first Wonder Woman movie, he plays Professor Lupin in Harry Potter as well.
Yeah.
His face is on Ares in that scene. So at least like even there, Zack Snyder is adding some type of lore-based cohesion that the DCEU has so little of, But it's cool. It's really cool. I do have to say, the one portion of this sequence that makes me laugh the most is when they've defeated Uxas and he's left Earth and they're left with the three mother boxes. Like the Atlanteans and the Amazons have like these impenetrable spaces that they've put the mother boxes, and then the fucking humans are like, you think a 3-foot hole's deep enough? No one's gonna find it here. I mean, look at all the trees. This forest is impenetrable.
I mean, this is a good hole. Plus, we wanted to eat some brisket later.
We worked really hard on this hole. Honestly, it's stupid, but it's absolutely what humans would do. Like they'd be like, I think the 3-foot hole is good enough. Let's go eat a sub sandwich, like Christian just said.
Like 20 feet should have been dug.
Oh yeah, totally.
Or
Like it's not even
50.
as deep as a grave.
Right?
It's like one of the most shallow holes. Like the top of the mother box is probably sticking out of the ground after they covered it with dirt. But it's just it's one of those moments where I was like, that's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah. Christian, what are your thoughts on it?
So when this sequence wasn't in Joss Whedon's at all, right?
There was a shorter version of it,
Shorter version.
and Darkseid was replaced with Steppenwolf in the
Steppenwolf.
sequence.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that shows how long it's been. But when this sequence started, this was the moment when I went, oh, because I'm like, I'm going to get a bunch of history about fake stuff. That's that moment in any lore-based thing where you're like, all right, I'm going to have to really just like, this is a movie. All right, lore. But I think it really paid off. I think it added, this contextualizes the entire struggle of what Snyder wanted to do for the Justice League movies, for the motivations of Darkseid and Steppenwolf, right, and that relationship and the history of the humans, Atlanteans, and Themyscira. And so I think it contextualizes the entire world in this one sequence. So I think it accomplishes all its goal. It's very cool. The muscly man looks weird, who I'm not sure what his
Zeus.
name is.
Okay, I think it was Zeus. That's the one that
Zeus.
that
The guy who's
threw me
playing
off
Zeus.
too.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
does look a little weird.
Or as I like to call him, the old man, you know,
Old muscles.
old muscles.
Old muscles.
He looks like, you remember that Flex, what's the Flex
Flex
comic?
Mentallo.
Flex Mental. He looks like Flex Mental with lightning bolts. And yeah, Zeus looked very silly. But that being said, like I said, the context of all that. And this is one of those sequences. I'm going to come back to 4-3 again. This is one of those sequences where I think that if you panned into 4-3 to tell this old tale, you get your cake and get to eat it too. Like, it tells us it's a different time period. It's another world. You can use the aspect ratio. And then once we're back into my movie, just, oh yeah, my TV's great. Anyway, but I thought it was very effective for as much as when it started, I went, and I think it paid off. So it's good.
Yeah, Vash, what are your thoughts on this sequence?
I fucking love this scene. It was truly, this was truly one of my favorite scenes because in the Josh Whedon version, it was like I think like 20, 30 seconds tops, like minute max, and I was like, oh, cool. Okay, it's gone. Damn, that sucks. But then for this version of Zack Snyder, we got like 3-5 minutes max, and it was so good. Our boy Darkseid got his ass kicked by Zeus and by the other gods, and I love it. I'm like, damn, you kicking his ass. And like, this was obviously before he became Darkseid Omega version of him and everything. But Darkseid got his ass kicked. Green Lantern, I'm not sure if that was supposed to be Adam Sur. He looked like him a bit, but I'm not sure if that was supposed to be him.
I think he
I
was
don't-
older than Abensur.
Yeah, he doesn't
Like an
look
ancient
he
lantern,
doesn't look the same.
basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, like from afar he looked like Adam Sword, but then after I've rewatched that scene a bit, so I'm like, oh, he don't look like him no more. So, but overall, that fight scene, I love it. I love to see pre-Atlantis, kings, Zeus, and everything. It was awesome to see these characters like much more extended, and to see them like these were the new gods before the old gods before they became the new gods. It was really awesome to see that because I really love that. And to actually see it done well in a much more grander scale. And I do agree with what Christian said, that this would have been a nice scene to actually go from full widescreen to 4:3 ratio. Like, that would have been really nice overall in the type of cinematic view. But I love this scene so much. Like, this is one of my top favorite scenes. Like, to actually see Darkseid. Like, I thought Darkseid was going to kick some ass at first because my dude jumped out of the ship. Like, all right, I'm going to jump out. I'm going to kick some ass. He said, nah. Got a whole axe right there. He like, help me. And they got dragged back on the ship. I'm like, my dude, you look like you just got your ass over. Like, you're a wuss. What the fuck happened there?
Yeah, I will say that would not have happened to comic book Darkseid. And definitely not that easy. Even if it did, it wouldn't happen that easy. Darkseid is ridiculously powerful.
Yeah.
But next scene that I wanted to jump into, something that was completely cut out of the Whedon cut, which was the sequence with Barry saving Iris. This was a scene I was really looking forward to when the trailers first dropped for Justice League. I was really looking forward to see the sequence introducing Iris into the DCEU, setting us up for the Flash movie and how their romance is going to be. And this, I don't like the way Ezra runs, man. Like, it really, really bugs me. I am such a huge Flash fan. It really, really bugs me. But what I do like, and it's something that Christian brought up earlier, is just the physics of it, right? Like, Zack Snyder has a really good, like, idea of what the physics are supposed to be. The way that Barry slowly moved Iris to the floor, because at those speeds, if he were to just grab her and pull her to the floor, she would be disintegrated.
Oh,
right?
obliterated.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I love that Zack Snyder paid that much attention to detail with that sequence. But Christian, I want to start with you again. How did you feel about the sequence in general? Would you have preferred that it was cut out of the movie? Do you feel like it fits? Like, what are your thoughts?
It's a really good music video for the song that's playing because it's almost the length of the song. It's it's a really great music video. No, it's visually stunning. And when he turns out of his shoes, I mean, come on, like, and it's very
So
to the
good.
character of Flash. He's, he's trying to be, he's kind of like he's very analogous to like Spider-Man almost, because he's, he's trying to get a job in the real world, and he's, got the things about young people where he's like he sees a girl that he finds attractive, and he's obsessed with her almost, almost to a creepy way. And it's very like young superhero kind of stuff, and it tells so much about his story with the humor at the end with the dog treat. It's great. It's just it's like 5 minutes long, all right, and it's something that you could have got all those visuals and got it in and out, and just have been a lot more economical with it. But this is Zack Snyder's shots, so we're gonna see them all, and they're gorgeous. It's gorgeous. It is that it's so tropey, and it kind of it's the one thing with tone that I think Snyder struggles with in being weird is like the reason that there's an accident for him to go is because a man drops his cheeseburger and he's like struggling for the cheeseburger. It's kind of like we're seeing this giant comically big truck, and it's almost very what's his name? Like those old the Burton Batmans. It's almost so silly. It's like we're in 1970s Batman territory almost. Like it's silly.
Like
it's
Adam West Batman.
Yeah, he's like, I dropped my cheeseburger. And it's
even better with the Joker makeup.
Yes. Well, I am who I am. I mean, again, it's a cool music video. It's way too long, but this, you're gonna hear that repeated time and time again. Also, doesn't need to be in 4:3. I yield my time.
Brian?
I thought this scene largely worked pretty well. I think it was a good introduction to Barry. We get a little bit of footage from like a CCTV beforehand that Bruce and Wonder Woman catch him on. But it is a little creepy for me. Just why does he have to move her hair out of the way? I think it's like the whole scene could work perfectly fine and not be at all creepy if that didn't happen. But that was just kind of immediately like, okay, he's probably taking a little bit of advantage there. A little bit uncomfortable with that. But he brings such great levity. Christian, to your point about him being like a Spider-Man, his quippiness, sometimes not all of his jokes land, but he is such a nice comic relief character. And I think this is a really good way to set him up in the real world, trying to get jobs to fund himself going to school. I think the stuff that with his dad is some of the stronger stuff for character motivation with him. So yeah, I thought this was a pretty solid introduction to Barry as the Flash, and it ends perfectly with the whole gag is redeemed by him taking the hot dog and giving it to the dogs. It's just brilliant and very cute.
I love that part because I'm like, dude, like, what are you gonna do with this hot dog?
Does he call it a meat treat as well? I was just like, who calls it that?
A meat
but
treat.
I love it.
Chris, what are your thoughts on this sequence?
I do like this scene. I have to agree with Christian though. And while I think that this scene is an excellent character beat for Barry, it's a great introduction. Like Brian said, we get a taste of like his sense of humor, which I really like, and plays a role in this Barry. This version of Barry Allen. We've talked before how like he's more of like a Wally West type than truly a Barry Allen type, but I'm okay with that. They can change up characters' personalities and stuff for different versions of them. That's totally fine. So I do like it as a character beat. I do think it could have been handled a little more economically, like Christian said. If we're trying to make a Snyder cut that is like 3 hours long, I definitely think this is something that could have been shortened a little bit. But I like him meeting Iris West. I think that's a great moment. Him pulling the hot dog out of the air is really funny. I initially thought he was pulling the hot dog out of the air because, as you know, the Flash has an incredible metabolism. So I thought he was just like, oh, God, I really need a snack. Like, let me just for later. I do appreciate that it is a payoff for him trying to get the dog walker job, though. But my initial brain, my comic book brain, went to like, this Flash is always hungry. That's why he's pulling food out of the air.
Chris, let me just stop you for a second. Iris West, this is a known character. I am so clueless.
She is the love interest of Barry Allen in the comic books.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
Jeez,
so
Brian.
Here's the thing.
I know. How could I not have known?
Brian's not alone in thinking that this scene with Iris is creepy. And maybe I'm like part of the problem, but I don't get creepy vibes from this scene. Prior to him going to save her, they clearly have a mutual attraction. She lingers on him as well. And he's really just brushing her hair out of her eyes to like admire her beauty. And he's still
Yeah.
Look, like I said,
this
I
is
might
it.
be
while
I might
she's
be part of the
unaware and
problem.
incapable of making any judgment.
Like I said, Brian, I'm not saying that I'm perfect here, but I'm saying that I think saying that the scene is problematic is maybe going too far. Like you're just looking for problems here, and I'm not saying you specifically, Brian, but like,
Look, it's not sexual assault, right?
Right.
I'm not making that argument, but it was something that on first watch I was kind of just like, oh, okay, that was
and
kind
he
of
does
unnecessary.
take care to like lay her down gently and make sure her body doesn't fucking explode from the velocity. So
Which
like,
is, yeah, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah,
And-
so let,
and-
let the guy get a nice little peek, you know? He saved her life. He gets a little peek, you know?
I'm not
She
saying
looked
that.
back at him.
Nope.
She looked at him. She was clearly
Nope.
into it. I don't know what you're talking about, Brian.
Oh no.
We are not going there on that one.
Christian's opinions do not represent Popaholics' opinions as a whole. No, I mean, I understand why people are saying that, but I think it's unnecessary. I don't think it's that creepy. That same actress is coming back for the Flash movie to reprise her role as Iris West, so we're going to get a lot more of their relationship, hopefully. But yeah, I like the scene. I think it could have been trimmed a little bit, like Christian said.
Yeah,
I
don't know if
agree.
I want Barry Allen saving my girlfriend. I feel like he'd take a gander a little too long. Sorry.
I do think it is just a little bit too long. Vash, how do you feel about this sequence? Like, were you happy for it? Like, do you feel like it was a sequence that could have stayed cut out of the film? Like, what do you think?
I'm happy it was there because I'm glad to know that that's Iris West. Hopefully when the Flash movie comes out, hopefully she doesn't get recast as well, because who knows what the hell is going to be happening for that film, because even the actor Ezra Miller could also be recast himself, so who the hell knows. But the scene itself, I'm happy it was there. Could have been a bit shorter. It could have been sped up a bit. Like everything was slow mo. Even the floor breaking, the lightning, everything was so slow. Like, I get it. We've seen a Flash series on CW for 6, 7, most likely 8 seasons. We know
Bash, some of us have not.
we probably have seen promos or trailers of the Flash seasons of CW.
Nice save.
That we know how fast he is, and if people have not heard "Run Barry Run" at all, then wow, because Barry was running, but so goddamn slow, and almost goddamn slow throughout the whole film. Like, we get it, and for him to grab the sausage, like, we get it that with him with the job, that was adorable. The dogs that were there, that were also cute and everything. Iris West, for me, him caressing the hair, that didn't really bother me at all. Like, I think he was just admiring how beautiful she is, which I do agree. She's really gorgeous. The actress, and I do apologize, I don't remember her name, but I did enjoy that scene. I do agree they could have been like a couple minutes shorter, or like not a couple minutes, but a couple scenes shorter for what it was. But overall, I'm happy that scene was actually there, because literally the whole scene was cut out. Just like Cyborg himself was literally cut out through most of that film of Josh Whedon himself as well.
Thank you for that transition, my friend, because that's actually what I wanted to talk about next.
Anytime,
The fact that Victor's entire characterization, everything that he is completely removed from this entire movie. And in the Whedon cut, he's just this whiny, ridiculous, like, teen kid who's upset at his daddy. And I hate it. I also hate the fact that the Whedon cut also cut out his mother. I thought that would have been a great moment to have that added in there. So I just want to know, like, your overall thoughts on all of the scenes that were removed from the Whedon cut that had Victor in it. So it's him, like, listening to the tape where Silas tells him, this is everything that you can do. You can unlock any computer. You can do anything. And he even searches the web for this struggling mother, and he just gives her money. So I want to know... Brian, I want to start with you. What are your thoughts on Victor's actual characterization in this film, and how did you feel about that sequence?
So I think the earlier stuff with Cyborg is the strongest for me. The scene with his mother, the football scene leading into the drive home, seeing him, and I think the CG that's done on Ray Fisher is kind of doing a disservice to the acting that he's doing. So Cyborg, I think he's doing really good stuff and gets emotional in that scene right before his mother is killed. And from that point on, you're totally with this guy. You know, his dad is not around as much as he like. His mother's making up for it, covering for the dad, and he loses her. from that moment on, this is as much of an origin story as we need. I think, you know, we know how he's created by his father, and that plays out as it does. I think as the movie goes, he becomes a little bit more one note, but this is some of my favorite Cyborg stuff throughout the whole movie, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Chris?
Yeah, I think as a whole, Cyborg is a way more empathetic character in this film because he has 100% more to work with. Ray Fisher really got robbed with that original cut. It's very tragic. But he has an entire backstory, an entire character arc in this film. He goes from feeling as though he is Frankenstein's monster, an abomination, thinking that all of his humanity is completely lost. Then we get to see him join the Justice League and find a new chosen family. And then it ends with him saying that he's not broken and he's not alone. And I think that it's a perfect character arc for this one character. You know, I think, again, this is another one of those things where I ask why. Why was this removed from the original? And I know there are reasons why, and I don't want to get into those reasons because they're despicable. But it's tragic. It would have made the theatrical cut so much better had they kept even a fraction of these scenes in.
And plus to know that he protected or helped a student just because she was falling behind. Like, that shows the human side of him, of Cyborg himself. Like, that shows that he's not just a football player, but he's also a genius. He knows how to hack computers even before he became Cyborg. So to know that he's not just a person that knows how to use it because of his whole half brain, his whole now part computer, but he also was a genius before this. So I love that very much. Also, that's included. It shows his human side, but also it shows his intellect.
Yeah. And Edlin, thank you so much for bringing that up. Like, the Whedon cut thought that they were so clever when they bring up the booyah dialogue at the end with Cyborg. I'm like, you didn't earn this. I don't know anything about Cyborg based on this movie, and you don't just get to throw in booyah and act like you did something, bro.
Right.
That's not how it works. That really pissed me off. Meaningless, absolutely. Christian, like, what were your thoughts on, like, Victor as a character compared to how he was portrayed in the Whedon cut?
Yeah, I mean, of course, he was gypped of all this stuff, right? He's a character in this movie, and he's not much of a character in the Joss Whedon cut. So again, for that, it works. I do want to say, you know, it's hard to say, is Ray Fisher not immediately selling me on this performance because of dialogue, of just the type of character he is, because of the CG? And I think it's a combination of that. I don't think the dialogue's perfect. It clearly is, again, we're comparing it to a very shitty movie where he was done very dirty. And so this is clearly the vision that Snyder wanted and makes a lot more context. It doesn't, I wish it mirrored the introduction to Flash, because Flash gets, I mean, that sequence we were just talking about is a trailer for a Flash movie, right? And then you have this very different way that you're telling Cyborg's story, just structurally, right? And if you're trying to mirror and parallel these characters, I find it a little disjointing that, you know, we're introduced to Flash in media res, and then Cyborg, we start from the very beginning. We have to go through this, and the movie has to spend so much time doing this. I'm sure there's other horrible reasons that it was cut that weren't just time, but it does feel like the brakes on everything are slammed down for just pacing of this story. And I think it plays into a reason why the Snyder Cut doesn't fully work for me, which is that it's not long enough to be a really good miniseries, and it's not short enough to be a tight, great feature film. It's stuck in between, and Cyborg is a good example of that, where it's struggling to spend enough time without dragging the pace of the movie down. But all that being said, I do love that opening football sequence. Again, Snyder's doing slow motion like nobody does slow motion. I mean, that whole sequence is great. I do like the concept of him visually doing it. It's just so much exposition at once of like his dad being like, you can control markets and you could do this. And it's like, you should not give a kid this much power. And like, of course, the first thing he does, he's like, where's the little old lady I can help take her groceries out? And it's literally like, you could crash the world economy and launch nuclear missiles. And he's like, ooh, little old lady, here's some cash.
That's a wonderful character moment.
It is.
You're on his side from that point forward.
Of course. He's like ultimately a good person. So again, it's way better than it was in Joss Whedon. It still isn't like, I still don't feel like I know Cyborg's drama throughout. You know, I don't feel like I'm emotionally connecting as much as the movie wants me to, but it is better. And I appreciated like some of the visuals are really cool. I do think the bull and like visualizing
The bear and the bull
the
fighting.
bear and bull markets
Oh, yeah.
fighting in like I was like, okay.
That whole
it's very-
visualization was really,
you know, it's-
really solid.
And this is a compliment, I guess, on this show. It's very comic booky. So that's a
Definitely
compliment.
is.
All right, so for the sake of time, I want to move forward a little bit because I want to be respectful of you guys' time. So one of the next bigger sequences was Steppenwolf going to Atlantis. He fights Mira and Aquaman, and he's able to get that mother box. And then later on, Steppenwolf gets a vision of the anti-life equation being on our Earth, and he finally gets to speak to Darkseid, and who knows how long if he's even seen Darkseid in thousands of years, who knows, right? And we get that sequence with Darkseid coming after the anti-life equation, which in the comics will rewrite the existence since the Big Bang. He can use it to rewrite everything so that everything and everyone is constantly under the rule of Darkseid. And I love the way that they also explain how the mother boxes work. The mother boxes essentially work like a philosopher's stone. It can take matter the way it is, completely break it down, and rebuild it using that material as something else. So I love that and how that plays into what happens later on into the film. So when Batman, Cyborg, and everyone realizes this information, this is how they realize that they can bring Superman back to life by using the mother box to change his physiology to bring him back to life, which is something that's completely like not in the Whedon cut at all. It's just like, okay, well, the mother box is this extremely like huge piece of AI technology, and it's a change engine thing. So with enough power, we can just use it to bring back Superman. It's so less interesting.
I think this MacGuffin can be more than a MacGuffin. I think it could be a super MacGuffin.
It's definitely
Other
glossed
MacGuffin.
over in the Joss Whedon version.
Yeah. So I thought that gave like great motivation to like how they were able to bring back Superman. I love the extended sequence of Flash running to power it, and he actually had to run even faster to like reverse time essentially so that he can get the timing right. And that's pretty much going to be just something that gives us a reference to what happens at the end of the film, which is one of my favorite moments in the entire movie, again, because I'm
It's a great setup.
huge Flash fan. So let's get to the Kryptonian ship, right? They revive Superman. Silas lets them in. Like, how did you guys feel about that sequence compared, again, to how it was in the Whedon cut? I much prefer the longer version of it. I love seeing Superman fighting against the military, him using his heat vision against Batman and his gauntlets that we find out that him and Alfred were working on. So how did you feel about the Superman versus Justice League sequence? And Vash, I'll start with you.
I do want to add that I love how in this film of Zack Snyder, we also see how Lois Lane was also going to his memorial 3 times all the time, and the cops say, "Oh, right on time, right on cue all the time." So it's not like in Joss Whedon version, she just pop out of nowhere, like, "Hey, I'm here for plot." So it's like, what the fuck? You just pop out of nowhere just because you see your boyfriend or technically husband that you might be pregnant of and everything? Like, okay, seems like you're here for a reason. But
Yeah, in
for
the original, I think she's Batman's secret weapon.
Yeah,
Like, that's
she
how they
just, she just
explain it.
shows
Yeah.
up.
She's
Like
just
in
like,
this,
"Oh,
it makes so
I have
much
a
more
secret
sense.
weapon." I'm like, huh? How? Sure, cool.
Yeah, it makes more sense for them to do it this way. Like, she visits his memorial every single day. We said it in the non-spoiler, but that cop that she visits is Jimmy Olsen from the old Superman movie. So I thought that was a great callback to see him in there. But this is something she does every single day. So the fact that she was there, it makes sense now. She's not
For
just
the
some
story.
some
That's beautiful.
secret weapon. Is like, well, the power of boners is stronger, so we'll just get Superman's girlfriend and she'll fix everything. But anyways, I digress. Vash, back to you.
So I love how she pop up there for the reason of the story, because she said, "Oh, what's going on there where my husband is, died and everything." So she goes back and finds out why, and she was a big thing. But I love how Superman kicks their asses. Superman literally beats them up. But one thing that not disappointed, but I get it that Flash is kind of new to this. But in the comics and like most comics, Flash is faster than Superman. But I guess Superman's just in his angry mode, and he just woke up. He just woke up in the wrong side of the bed, and Barry just got his ass whooped as in speed. But my favorite scene is when Barry and Aquaman was fighting against him, and Superman threw Barry to Aquaman, and just Aquaman just stares and like you got in the way. So I love that scene very much. It was great comedy for it, and Wonder Woman kept trying like, hey Cal, you got this. We're here for you, and Bruce was ready to die. Like my dude was just like he didn't want to die, but he knew like he fucked up because the reason Clark died was because of Bruce being stupid. Like, hey, we gotta kill him because he's a guy. Like, no, you don't. Just have a conversation with him and everything. But I really enjoyed this fight scene. It was way much better executed in story and was way much better edited as well.
Yeah, Brian.
Yeah, I thought this scene was great and very, I mean, realistic seems like a silly word to use here, but showing just how overpowered Superman is. He like headbutts Diana into solid rock, like multiple feet. And it was just like, wow, this man is out of control. The Flash moment is definitely up there for one of my favorite moments. I know it was in the Joss Whedon cut as well, but it's just so perfect. His Flash being new, he's never had anyone nearly close to his speed, and then he's just blown away seeing Superman being comparable.
The look on his face, right?
That's
just
a
like,
great beat.
Dumbfounded. Yeah.
And then from that point, he has to pivot and just try to like avoid all of his punches, which he's never had to do before either.
Right. So totally different fighting style. Possibly my favorite moment for the whole thing is Batman showing up like 5 minutes late because he has no transportation to get there quickly and just helping out cops. I was like, this is the realest part of this entire movie. And it makes sense. Bruce needs to get some better transportation.
I got stuck in 5 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly.
Christian, what are your thoughts?
This is the point where you realize if you even slightly like appreciated stuff in Joss Whedon's Justice League that or Justice League, I'm doing it. This is where you realize how much better this movie is for what it's going for. Building up to getting Superman back, and then the terrifying realization that Superman doesn't remember shit and he's pissed is like building up to that moment, and just even from the fundamental way that they color corrected the shots, it's so much more in line with the tone of the movie. The movie's consistent with the lighting, a lot sharper edges, a lot more contours going on, right? And it's not like this scene was kind of awkward. It's a cool idea, but it was kind of awkward in Joss Whedon's cut. But you still got some of those moments, right? But it just looks way better, and it's way more earned because it feels more dangerous what they're doing. There's more context to what they're doing. The movie doesn't start off with, Superman's coming back, right? And we all knew that, right? But it's just like there's so much more context and emotional stake throughout. And so the fact that it's a really cool action scene where we get to see all the heroes get their ass whooped by angry, unforgettable Superman who doesn't know who he is, that's a terrifying prospect, and the darker toned work with that because that's what Snyder made. And this is one of the high points for me, of course, because it's just like it's that like who would win in a fight? All of the Justice League, it's Superman or Superman. Come on, who doesn't want to see that? And the fact that it's on film in a really digestible way is super cool.
Yeah, I loved it, man. Chris, I'm going to toss it to you. And then after that, I want to jump into the third act of this movie. So talk to me about how you felt about this fight sequence compared to the Whedon cut.
Oh, I everything that Christian said is on point. Contextually, tonally, it's all fitting within the context of this new cut of the film. Yeah, Zack Snyder has elongated several of these fight scenes to make it seem a little more epic. Out of this whole sequence, obviously I really like that Flash moment where he's running really fast and Clark is able to turn and see exactly where he's moving. But even taking it back a little bit, talking about them before they resurrect him, I love how adamant Bruce is about bringing him back. Even when Cyborg and Aquaman are like, this is a bad idea, no, Bruce is like screaming at them. His guilt weighs so heavy on him that like he will not do anything but resurrect Superman to try and quell some of this guilt and get his redemption. And like you said, Flash running through the whole ship, us actually getting to see time reverse just a little bit is a fantastic setup for the finale of this film. So it's an awesome moment in the whole movie.
Yeah, man. I much prefer that all of these scenes are just longer. You know what I mean? Like, as a comic book fan, I never want these moments to end. I want them to go long as possible, right?
Yeah.
And as a film nerd, it's like, all right, well, you could have cut this here, you could have cut this here. Like, realistically, watching it a second time, I'm like, this movie could have been 340, right? There's probably 20 minutes.
It definitely could have been 340, and I'll tell you why when we get to the very end of this movie. But you're 100% right.
Yeah, this could have easily been 340. There's things that you could have cut out that didn't need to be as long. But if it's going to be Zack Snyder's Justice League, if this is the last thing we're going to get from the Snyderverse, I'm glad that we have all of this stuff, and I'm super grateful for it. So right. I'll take all of those moments. So I want to get into the third act, and we're pretty much just going to talk about our favorite moments from the third act. And Brian, I would love to start with you. What were some of your favorite moments from the third act of the movie?
All right. So potentially top scene for me is the Batmobile chase scene once Batman breaks through. This is the best elements of Zack Snyder. The slow-mo, the gorgeous shot composition, the awesome action. It was just, I was totally in for it. And this is where the movie just doesn't stop until the epilogue at this point. So I was just totally on for the ride at this point. But yeah, I think that, as well as the Flash actually reversing time and the visuals tied to that, is some of the most astonishing stuff in any DC movie. I think the things he says in that moment don't exactly nail it for me. The stuff about his father, but all in all, yeah, I think the Batman chase scene has got to take the cake for me. And I did want to, I don't know if we're talking about the very end, but something that I caught on rewatch.
You can, yeah.
When Superman is just pounding into Steppenwolf, I noticed that there were similar shock waves to his pounding to him at his cries at the beginning, which is something that I didn't catch prior. And it was just a perfect wrapping up of his whole arc throughout the movie. So yeah, those I think were some of my top tier third act moments.
Yeah. Christian, what about you? What were some of your favorite moments from the third act?
Yeah, this third act goes, it was all worth it. I know it's a little too long. I know you can hang in there. I know it seems really extended. It's a really
you earned it, champ.
Cut, but you earned it.
My man.
My man.
That's my favorite line in the whole movie.
Right.
I kind of love. I think it works so well that Aquaman's not in this movie a lot because he's like the least developed character, clearly, and like he's just kind of cool Aquaman, and he's just allowed to be that
cool and shirtless.
Cool and well, of course, Jason Momoa.
Dreaded.
I could take Mimosa that man. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I mean, you guys are going to mention them all because we all have the same ones because we saw the same movie, and I think this movie just does everything because this was a very, I mean, there's some really key parts missing that make it so much better than the Whedon cut, but it's a very similar premise, right? Flash is doing something different, but like we saw these shots, it's just again more consistent tone. But I have to say, like, it just earns every moment so much more, right? And adding that Flash bit at the end, it just reminds you what we were building towards and what was important in us, like fearing Steppenwolf, like Steppenwolf whooping all of their asses, and like he'd been such a formidable foe, and to have that payoff of finally having, Superman come back. I mean, that moment, I mean, come on, like Superman land, like, cause we're all stressed and everything's crazy, but Superman landing, getting the axe, frost breath, which is like, isn't this the first time that we've seen that in the entire
in
DC
this universe? Yeah.
It's incredible. It's incredible. And then just having him whoop his ass, it's just like it's so hard to earn those moments and make that feel anything. But it was the one big huge thing that's missing. Even though Whedon was like, we got to make Superman the core of the story. He like missed the entire story that was already shot, right? And this is that moment where you get the core of Superman coming back, and you, for the first time, for the strongest time in all of the Superman movies in this DCU, I went like, I am so glad Superman's here and Superman's here to save the day. And then to see Superman just a little too angry for Superman's sake, I'm like, ooh, Superman, like, chill, dude. Like he's a bad dude. It's awful, but like, you're going a little ham. Yeah, Snyderverse. So just seeing Superman come back, it's just like, it's so much more earned. And you guys are gonna gush about the Flash, like it being awesome, because it is. But yeah. I did want to focus on I mean, that is better. I think it actually is a little better. But I wanted to focus on Superman because I was really I saw Superman. I was like, Superman. And it's been a while since that, so it was cool.
Exactly. That's how you should feel. It's like Superman's here, dude. He's here to save the day with the Justice League. Yes. You should feel safe. It should be these epic moments, bro. Oh, man.
To be fair, though, he doesn't need to be wearing black. I just don't get, like, maybe there's like a nerdy, I know for a fact, there's a nerdy reason and lore and all this other stuff that you're going to tell me and you're excited about, and I'm so excited for you. I just like the fact he's wearing black is just kind of stupid. It's just kind of like, he's like, I'm back, but I'm a little dark, a little emo.
For the sake of doing the death of Superman and resurrection, like in the comics, he does, when he's resurrected, he does start off in the black suit before he transitions again.
It's a means to him to absorb the radiation.
Where's my mullet, though? Where's my mullet? I needed
that, I was like, where's the mullet?
Like, he might as well
release
come
the
back,
mullet
like,
cut.
Part of me was like, oh, why doesn't he come back with like swoopy hair, like Tobey Maguire style? It's like,
that's how he was supposed to. Like, he was supposed to come back with long mullet hair and like a whole beard.
On this.
Oh man.
Frostbite.
Yes.
Like, there's a little bit of that with the black suit, but yeah, still cool. You know, he looks badass. Oh, by the way, Henry Cavill, although he's not in this movie a lot, he's awesome, and I love him as Superman.
Superman, period.
Okay,
he is, in my opinion, best Superman ever. But Chris, let me get your favorite moments from the third act.
So there are two moments that stand out to me specifically, and Christian's right. They're probably the same two moments that you guys have. But when I was watching the movie for the first time, I actually texted Brian and Christian during these scenes, and I said, I can't believe it. This movie has, what did I say? Cap picking up Mjolnired me. When I saw Captain America pick up Mjolnir for the first time in theaters during Avengers Endgame, I experienced something that I'd never experienced as an adult moviegoer, which was I was manically laughing with joy and weeping at the same time. Like, it was all emotions in one. Like, I think I also told Christian that, like, this movie has me fucking Kevin Smith crying right now. Like, that's how much I was impacted by the finale of this movie. And I'll tell you why I was so impacted. It's because when I was in high school, when I was a teenager, younger kids won't understand this, but comic books weren't always in the mainstream. You know, if you liked comic book heroes, you had to kind of hide it from people, you know? And when you saw things that were epic and were reasons why comic books weren't only for children, you tried to explain to your friends and show your friends those things, to be like, look at these things. This isn't just for kids. And what the end of this movie gave me was the same feeling I had as a 14-year-old watching Justice League Unlimited. There are two scenes in Justice League Unlimited that will forever stick out to me as scenes that showed me that superheroes could be so much more than just for children. And the first scene is at the very end of Justice League Unlimited. Darkseid has come to Earth, and there's a scene between Darkseid and Superman where they're fighting each other, and Superman delivers this awesome monologue about how he constantly feels like he lives in a world of cardboard. And what Darkseid has given him is a rare opportunity to cut loose. And then he literally beats the shit out of Darkseid through the cityscape of Metropolis. And it's just such an epic monologue. And even talking about it's giving me goosebumps right now.
Same, bro.
That sounds pretty awesome. Superman
arriving and saying, I'm not impressed, and then shattering Steppenwolf's axe gave me the exact same feeling that scene from Justice League Unlimited gave me when I was 14 years old. And then after that, in regards to the Flash, the second Justice League Unlimited scene that I would always reference in high school and try to show people.
Brainiac.
Yes,
I already knew you were going to say it.
So Brainiac and Lex Luthor play the long con in this season of Justice League, where at the very end, they merge together to become this god being, and the Justice League cannot beat them. And then Flash realizes that if he runs around the Earth and goes faster than faster than he ever has before. He can actually crack through this Brainiac armor that Lex Luthor is wearing. So there's this epic moment where you see him circling the Earth and like gradually ripping off armor pieces off of Lex Luthor. The rest of the Justice League is completely down, but he runs so fast that he enters the Speed Force and you think he's dead. And it's this epic moment in the cartoon where you're like, what is that? This is a children's show, but this is so emotionally impactful. And again, seeing Ezra Miller as the Flash run back through time to right the wrong at the end of this movie, and his whole callback to the conversation he has with his dad, make your own future, make your own past, it's all now. The same emotional experience as I had when I was 14 again at the end of this fucking movie. And it's just moments like that where you realize why these characters can be so impactful. Whether you're 14 or 32, it doesn't matter. People love these characters, right? So I know that was long-winded. I'm sorry. But those are my two favorite moments out of this whole fucking movie.
No, that was great, man. And
that was amazing,
right?
dude.
It's
That was
hopeful.
amazing.
I reached James Barnes' level of passion in that moment.
I love it because you
Bow down
brought
to it.
reference to Justice League Unlimited, and I'm currently rewatching that. Haven't gotten to those scenes.
I
yet,
hope I
but
didn't spoil that for
No,
you.
no.
I'm sorry.
I grew up with it, so I have seen it when I was younger, but I'm just rewatching it just for nostalgia and everything. So, but when you brought those up, I'm like, that's an extra sweaty level of John Schnapp. I'm like, oh, awesome.
Yeah, that was one of my favorite moments of the Flash period in any medium, bro. Because that took me back to, Crisis, where Barry sacrificed himself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, it took me back to that, and it was great to see Wally doing something of that caliber. But Vash, I'm gonna toss it to you, and then I'll give my favorite moments.
So one before I say my two favorite moments, I want to say props to the parademon that shot Barry. Cause like my dude was aiming that, like he was like, I'm not just wait, I'm the most special parademon throughout all of them because I know how to aim and hit Barry that's going the fastest, man. Like my dude got the best aim through everyone. Somehow he got Barry, and he
There's
was
an
going like a
entire
motherfucker.
4-hour Snyder movie that's just about that parademon.
Just him aiming.
being the
Just
hero.
him aiming and just
The
becoming
journey
the hero.
that he's the main character of his story. And we watch him go through the parademon ranks, and everybody's like, "You gotta sniff fear," and he's like, "I am fear." And it's all very long.
I'd
A lot
watch
of
that.
slow mo, lots of slow mo.
Luckily, he
Yeah,
only
props to him
had
because
to pan
I just
45
want-
degrees.
I just really wanted to shout that out. And the second thing I wanted to point out, I love how in the third act of the film, Martian Manhunter comes at the end of this end credit scene and be like, "Hey, just saying, if you need me in the future, I'm here." I'm like, "Bitch, so where the fuck were you when we were fighting Steppenwolf then? Like, we kind of needed you. Like, we had to resurrect Superman just because we had no big guns. But if you're a big gun, why weren't you with us?"
It's like, I was pretending to be Martha Kent. My bad.
yeah, like,
Because Warner Brothers locked me in a cage.
so, like, that's one thing that really fucked me up throughout the whole film. Like, if you're going to come to Bruce literally at the end of the film and ask, like, "Hey, if you're going to build a team, I'm here for you." I'm like,
Yeah, it's almost like it makes the movie worse.
slightly bother me. That's like my one con. I'm like, I get what you're doing, Zach, but if you really needed him, you should have told him, like, "Yo, my guy, we need you." But my favorite scene is what Chris brought up. Superman gave the ass whooping to Steppenwolf. He's like, "Hey, I just got resurrected. I need to stretch my legs and my muscles because they've been dead for like, a good probably month or so. So let me come here and whoop your ass." And my dude just throwing him around. He burned that whole horn. He literally broke his arm. He broke his whole freaking armor. I like, hey, he was just kicking Aquaman, Cyborg, and one of them's ass. But Superman literally came big guns. He like, "Yo, you're just nothing. You literally just a whole bag." Just to throw some ass whooping and everything, and then he literally threw Stephenwolf's head to Darkseid, literally through the whole portal, and just Superman just staring at Darkseid like, "Yo, come at me, bro. Let's go. What's up? Come through. Let's go. Let's fight." So I was hoping, but again, like we know, restores the Snyderverse. I was hoping for the Darkseid versus Superman in the third film because, again, like we said it in the beginning of the show, it was ambiguous of what it was in the nightmare sequence that Superman was controlled by the intellect equation. because that was very ambiguous. Like, if you did not read the articles, if you did not watch the YouTube videos that people covered, you would not know. But it was very implied, ambiguous, but was not very told for the audience that would not know what the hell's going on. But my second favorite thing that is going on is freaking Flash. That moment that he said, "Run, Barry. You gotta run, and you gotta break the one rule that you have never broken before." Oh, sorry, that you have broken before. So I hope for that Flash one. We know. I wish we find out. When have you broken this rule that you kept telling yourself to not break this rule? Because the only time you have broken this rule is when you fight freaking Dawn. And that's something I want to see on the big fucking screen. Because we've seen it in CW. But it only happens in like season 1 of CW is when it's actually fucking good. But that's a whole different conversation. So I want to see Barry actually fights Dawn. And when he breaks, the barrier of time. Because that's when he goes to fix, his mom's death and everything. So that would be amazing. So I love the fights. I love that whole sequence where he goes in time and fixes the slow motion step. Even though I do agree with James, the way he runs is just a weird sidestep. It's like he looks like he's doing some type of step.
It's almost like he's
dance.
swimming.
Yeah, he's like, but like swimming, but standing up, like in the water. It's like, I get what you're doing, but take it like run like an athlete. But
to be fair, I do want to defend Snyder here. Can't believe it. If you were running that fast, you would not look normal, right? If you were moving your body, you're
get it.
Like, you know what I mean?
Because Zack Snyder is more in the realistic realm of what he do with Superman, with Man of Steel. So maybe that was his approach with Barry, like running, like, hey, run, but like run realistic where you cannot really run super speed, like you're just running like it's normal. Like, yeah.
That's Tom Cruise run. You're doing a Tom Cruise run right now. This is Tom Cruise.
So I get it what you're saying, that he wants to make it realistic in that type of scenario, but that scene was beautiful. The way he had a little speech monologue, like, hey dad, those heroes, they were special, I am one of them. Very beautiful, very impactful. And then that slow-mo that he touches our boy Cyborg, like, hey, boom. And then he enters that whole type of mindset, like, I lost one family, but I got a new family, those type of tropes of human and everything. It's very beautiful. I love that scene. It was very amazing. So those are two of my favorite scenes. Even though Marshall Manhunter could have been there, but where the fuck were you, guy?
I don't know. I think he needed to see other people fighting for this planet for him to be motivated. Because when he came here, he obviously had to hide himself away. And seeing Kal-El and seeing all of these other beings putting everything on the line, that's what pushed him going forward. So I really, really like that. I love Superman showing up. Him showing up in the Whedon cut just felt like, we just went on Reddit. We saw all of the complaints. He's not cheery enough. So the first thing he'll say when he shows up is, I'm a fan of truth, but I'm also a big fan of justice. I fucking hated that.
Oh, God.
That was garbage. I hated it.
I'm a big fan of justice.
Jesus. He comes in, he takes the axe to the shoulder, not impressed, beats the shit out of Steppenwolf. I love that Batman also gets a really he gets a bunch of cool sequences against the parademons. Chris, to bring it back to Justice League Unlimited, towards the end of that series where Lex finds the anti-life equation, there's actually a fight scene between Batman and Darkseid where Batman is actually able to dodge every single one of his Omega beams.
It's
and
crazy.
Even Darkseid was like, you're impressive for a human. That was one of my favorite Batman moments ever. And to just like get little glimpses of Batman being super agile, his strength, all of his toys against the parademons, I absolutely love that. The Flash moment, watching him run, the pep talk that he gave to himself, like, Dad, I was one of them. I was one of those people. And watching him run around, watching the unity happen, ripping everything apart, and then watching it come back together as Barry is reversing time. I was losing my mind, bro. As a Flash fan, that was one of the greatest things I've ever seen in a comic book movie. Just watching that happen. Just watching the lightning, everything being reversed. It was everything that I could possibly want. And then right at the end of it, when Diana cuts Steppenwolf's head off and it falls right through the portal, right at Darkseid's feet, and the entire Justice League stands in front of him like, what? And then like a pussy, he closes the portal because he's not ready. That's the
Yep.
Justice League that I needed to see. That's why at the end, when you get them standing on top of whatever you call that thing, I guess you call like a silo
Cliff.
thing, like
Yeah.
The true last shot of the movie.
yeah, when they're standing on top of it, that's earned, bro. In the
100%.
Whedon cut, it happens. It's like you didn't earn this. You didn't earn these great moments with all of these characters coming together as the true Justice League. You didn't earn it, bro.
But Flash saved a Russian family.
Oh my God. We won't go down that tangent because we're already at 3 hours, but it's just like Flash has nothing to do in the Whedon cut. He saves this one family that's in a truck. It's so fucking stupid, but those
And Bruce
are
tells
some
them
of-
like, what do you have to do?
that family
You
in a
gotta
truck.
save one family, save one person. Like, no.
I
Flash
hated that,
always
bro.
knew to save. Oh, Flash always knew that he needs to save people. That's why he always wants to save his goddamn mother. That is his drive. That is his motivation as the Flash. Damn, that shit
Yeah.
pisses me off.
So let's talk about the epilogue super quick, and then we can get out of here. But I love the epilogue. Real quick, just talking about the mid-credit scene where we're essentially setting up the Legion of Doom, where Lex Luthor reveals to Deathstroke Bruce Wayne's true identity. That was supposed to lead into Ben Affleck's Batman movies that won't be happening. Yes,
all gonna
sad
pay
tear
off.
for that.
All
But
gonna pay off. Don't you worry, James.
but I
It's all
love that
gonna
it
pay off.
switches. I love that it switches gears to the Nightmare sequence, and Deathstroke is actually a part of Batman's crew, and so is Joker. And then Joker just talks. I love that exchange between them, right? Like a lot of people compare that sequence to Heath Ledger and Christian Bale's exchange. I think they're about the same level. I don't think one is greater than the other, in my opinion, because when it comes to Leto's Joker and Ben Affleck, that moment is a little bit more impactful for me because that conversation is talking about Joker murdering Jason Todd right in front of Bruce. So that was a lot more impactful to me compared to the conversation that they had in Dark Knight, right? So I just want to get your guys' quick thoughts on the Nightmare sequence, and then we can head out for the night. So Christian, I see your face.
Got a couple things to say.
I want to start with you. What did you think of the Nightmare sequence?
Listen, I developed this entire joke. I painted my face so that I could talk about the Nightmare sequence and why right now I look like Jared Leto's Joker. Okay. And not I don't look like Jared Leto's Joker is the point that I'm making. And I did all this for this moment because how ridiculous is it that I painted my fucking face and have this bullshit background behind me for no reason other than it's fun, right? And it's fun. This is fun to have it. But Jared Leto's Joker did not earn this, and it's not Jared Leto's fault. Like, I mean, it's kind of his fault because the Joker's kind of all over the fucking place. And like, what is he doing in this scene? What is he doing? He's like, I'm that's why I am kind of more like Heath Ledger now, because that's fun. And it's just like, where are you from? You have no accent. Like, you were a gangster dude in Suicide Squad, and now you're a fucking kind of more Heath Ledger, but also weird.
We
Okay.
live in a society.
I hate that laugh, bro.
I love that you are
I think
getting-
I'm the only one that actually enjoys that laugh. I think I'm the only one in this panel that actually has like, hey, I'm okay with it. It's cool.
I don't think it's definitely an affectation. It doesn't really add up to much. Like, right? Like Heath Ledger's Joker. Well, listen, I'm not gonna go down a tangent. Everybody knows Heath Ledger's Joker is better. The fact that you say that scene between Christian Bale and Heath Ledger and this is on the same, they weren't in the
I agree with
same
James.
room when they filmed it, from what I have read. Right?
They weren't.
They're not even having the same conversation. The fact that you're like, oh, they're talking about Jason Todd. It's like my first viewing, like read through. I'm like, what are they fucking talking about? What does this have to do with? And they have hinted towards it, right? In BVS, you get the shot of Jason Todd's like outfit and all this stuff. You can clearly see that there's Robin. So I'm glad there's stuff that you can get from it and that it's worthwhile for you. But like, what is that conversation about? Like the conversation that they're actually about the same thing. That's the real crazy part, is they're kind of about the same thing, but one earned it, one didn't. Basically, Batman is intimidating Heath Ledger and being like, I have all this brute strength. And he's like, I'm a psychopath, so it doesn't fucking matter to me. I don't give a shit. And he's like, but you wouldn't exist if chaos wasn't here. And it's this like really great conversation of like, all your force, all your strength, right? And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. It means nothing to this chaos agent. And in this film, it's the same conversation, but nothing matters because we don't know anything about this Joker, this Batman. We're just pontificating. We're just like thinking about all the things that could have happened if Snyder just had a fucking another movie. Okay? And it's maddening and it's stupid and it's dumb and it's just making people really upset. And I get
God, the makeup paid off so
Just
well.
icing on the cake. Yeah, perfect.
Really,
I can't.
it was a
I gotta
great
say,
choice.
Every time I need to scratch my face, I don't know how the Joker does it. This is a lot. My eye itches so bad. Anyway,
It was worth it, dude. You look great.
this is the epilogue. Honestly, I probably would be so hot on this movie right now.
You look like Heath Ledger. Dude, Heath Ledger had the paint on his hands the whole movie. It makes sense.
It does.
I gotta touch my face. I think I have pink eye. This movie, I think I would have had a much hotter opinion if it didn't have all this bullshit at the end. I'm glad like fans get something out of it. I'm not super happy about the diehard fans that are like, Warner Brothers, we demand the truth. When it's like this was the Snyder cut, and now this is additional shit that was shot just to cock tease super fans. And I like Snyder. He's a great visual artist, you know, and like this scene, the idea behind it is cool, but it means nothing to the rest of the movie. It adds nothing. I don't like it one bit.
That's fair, man. Brian, I'm going to toss it to you. Like, what did you think of the epilogue?
I probably am more on Christian's side than you guys maybe, but I thought elements of it worked. I thought this time through seeing Cyborg also have this vision of the future and what was to come when he was trying to set off the mother box. I'm still a little confused as to what was driving that vision. But yeah, from stuff from VV.
I think it was the ship trying to warn him.
It was the ship itself. Okay.
Right.
So this kind of inevitability of what's going to happen, bringing Superman back, there's so much potential there. And it feels just unfortunate that knowing that it wasn't going to pay off, that he would come back to it, bring up this whole arc of Jason Todd being killed by Joker, which I thought that was probably the moment when he says, what's the line about sending a boy to do a man's job?
Mm-hmm. Sending a boy wonder to do a man's job.
Sending the boy wonder.
That was great. I think that, and the moment Martian Manhunter, I think he takes away from one of the best emotional moments of the movie with Martha and Lois Lane. That kind of didn't make a lot of sense to me that was Martian Manhunter, but the shot of him flying up with the city in the background, Bruce's house, the water, the reflection.
You're glad it's in 4:3 in that moment, aren't you, Brian?
It's an
God,
gorgeous,
if it wasn't in 4:3, I would have
shot.
fucking shut the movie off. You know?
But yeah, that's my general takes on the epilogue. It was just unfortunate that, like you guys said, there's so much to explore that we're never going to get to really dive into.
Yeah. Chris?
I think I land probably right in between Christian and Brian and you and Vash, because, you know, I really enjoyed this scene as a DC fan, getting to see Ben Affleck Batman interact with Jared Leto Joker, talk a little bit about the Robin that we know was murdered in this universe. I'm eating it all up. It's fantastic. But I have to agree with Christian and Brian that, like, as a cinephile, my more critical brain goes, all of this is meaningless. There's no reason for this to be here. I really wish the movie would have ended with Clark pulling his shirt open, because to me, that's like a solid bookend to a Man of Steel trilogy.
Right.
You know? The epilogue to me is one of those, outside of the actual closing statements of the Justice League, because technically him pulling his shirt open is in the epilogue portion of this movie. It's in like the first 5 minutes of it.
Right.
But this nightmare sequence, while I love it, I think is a good example of something that could have been a special feature clip on a physical release of this film. Like, if Zack Snyder wanted to, and I know why he did it. He did it because he thought it would be criminal not to show these two characters interacting. And he, even though he knew he wasn't getting another movie, he wanted to show us just a tease, a glimpse of what his vision would have looked like.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, while it's enjoyable as someone who loves these characters, it doesn't contribute anything to the film as a whole. So when I said I think you're right in that this movie could be like a clean 340, by cutting off these 20 minutes, absolutely you could hit 340.
Tight 340.
A tight 340, just an afternoon. You just have to dedicate an afternoon to it. But yeah, so I enjoy watching these characters interact. I like seeing Flash in that armor because it makes that one scene in BVS make more sense. But
Lois is the kid.
Lois is the kid. Am I too early?
It's Agatha.
Yeah, you could cut it off.
Release the Snyder cut. Might as well have said that. Can I say I do want to add? I do like Flash's armor a lot.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, Vash, we'll end it off with you, man.
What I would say is how Josh Nepp has always said it before is that these are the what ifs type of movies and scenes and everything like. And Zack Snyder, like what Christian and Chris said as well, and Brian is like, Zack Snyder blue balls us. He brought this in because he knew he's not gonna get the third trilogy that he wanted, because he wanted a three trilogy film of Justice League, part 1, part 2, part 3, which again it's respectable. You are a director, you have a vision for it, but sadly Warner Bros. Don't want to spend the money and they don't want to have you no more. Alright, cool. So he already had this film for trilogy number 2. So hey, he already had his film. He knew he's not gonna get it to be continued, so he just put a slap it in at the end so people can at least, since there's clips for the trailers and everything, he just want to include it at the end and just have it finished. I agree with James. To me, this chemistry between Bruce Wayne and with this Joker for me is on par with the Heath Ledger and Christian Bale one. I enjoy that very much. I like the chemistry between them two. Yes, it could have been I heard the same rumor that they were not in the same room or same scene. So, but it just edited very well, and Jared Leto did a good job. Yes, his laughs for some people turns him off. For me, I actually enjoy it for what it is. I had a good time, but I really like seeing Deathstroke there. I wish they could have continued the Legion of Doom stuff with Deathstroke. We could have seen a better version of Lex Luthor improve this ending scene. Like, we didn't need the whole lollipop inside the mouth. It was weird back then, and everything. That was just some weird shit. The fuck, I don't know.
Dude, that Jolly Rancher scene is great.
Oh yeah, Jolly Rancher. It was just
ridiculous.
It was cringe as hell. But to know that we could have gotten these type of seeds in the future story of DCEU is awesome. Like, just to see Deathstroke, just to see Mara, and she said he killed Arthur Curry, and cool. I like this the darker, loner versions of these type of characters. Cyborg having other armors and type of machine guns. I'm like, okay, this is pretty cool. And just to see Barry with this weird suit, he looks like he's from Earth. I think Earth 60, the one. If I remember correctly, from the Flash, they also show a version of him from Crisis and everything. So I like that we see different suits and everything of him. But I like the Joker. I love Bruce Wayne and everything, that scene. And Deathstroke. Very disappointed that we will never get that. He did say that if he doesn't get to do it in the DCEU movie or show, he will continue this with his brother in a comic book type of version. So if he does bring this in a comic book, I would definitely read this, because I would love to see what he would have done and continue this type of verse in a comic book. And
yeah, he said he talked to Jim Lee about illustrating it.
Yes,
that would be awesome.
Wow. So
yeah, that would be
awesome.
So good.
If he could do that with Jim Lee as well, that would be awesome as well, because I would definitely buy that. I would definitely buy the hard copy.
Now, Jim, how do we put the I want the viewer, the reader of the comic book to open it, but I need it to be slow. I need it to be very slow, and it needs to be 800 pages.
Ratio, and 4:3 ratio as well. Okay. But overall, I had a good time with this epilogue. Sucks that, like, yes, I get where Christian and Brian are coming from. That sucks that it doesn't really add anything to the film. Yes, they blue balls was very hard body. Like, it was some beautiful, like how James like his woman, long thighs and tall. It sucks that we just saw it from afar. There was not up close for us to see like a striptease. Very sad that we could actually spend time with them. But overall, I had a good time.
What is Bruce? I do have a question for you guys. If you can answer it. What does Bruce Wayne say in this ending scene?
He says, fuck you, I'm gonna kill you, or something like that.
I'm gonna fucking kill you.
Tread lightly.
And I will
I'm gonna
fucking kill you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's got
Because he talks about holding
Harley
voice.
as she's dying. Yeah.
Yeah.
Why does he has the
that's
voice
right.
thing on, and it's like, dude, we know what you sound like.
Yeah, he's a
Yeah,
voice
Yeah,
modulator.
Like, we know you're Bruce Wayne. We're like, and
But-
he call you Brucey.
The
But
real Joker I
Batman-
know and that I embody right now would have been like, Bruce, you don't have to use your voice. I know what you sound like.
Batman is who he is. The Bruce Wayne voice is the one he's acting with.
right,
So
right.
Yeah.
that is very accurate.
That is who he is.
This was an incredible review. I really, really appreciate you guys coming on the show and sticking it out with us.
Oh, you don't want to do
We've been
another
going-
45? We could do another type 45. I mean, I put on makeup for this shit. Did you guys put on makeup for this shit?
Technically, we could do another 40 minutes to reach that nice 4-hour mark. Just like, have a full discussion. Because I know me and James would do a future commentary of that 4-hour film. And now,
We will.
that would be a
Like our
fun one.
Endgame episode, nearly as long
Yeah.
as the game itself.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought this was a really good deep dive. I really, really appreciate having you guys here. I respect all of your opinions on media in general. So when I tell you it is an honor to have you guys on the show, it really is an honor. And I personally can't wait to be back on the O-Holics podcast. I love you guys. I love the content that you make. O-Holics is literally my favorite podcast running right now. And
my
again,
gosh.
I really,
Thank you
really
so much,
appreciate you
dude.
guys. So Christian, I want to start with you. Tell the people where they can find you online and what projects you're working on.
Yes, you can find me at Christian Katie. You can also find my band at Midnight Satire. Search for Midnight Satire on your favorite streaming platform. I make music, more music coming soon. And of course, O-Holics at O-Holics and O-Holics Podcast. Subscribe to it. I'm the host of that show. I dress up like this every podcast, but we're audio only. So this is really the only time I've been
It's more for me and Brian than anything else.
But we've been telling them to do YouTube videos as well because, they should. Because I would love to see
We are
this.
on YouTube now. So if you subscribe to O-Holics, you will get our
But do
podcast main
videos,
feed
though.
and our old stuff. Hey, it's all stuff is happening.
The process.
It's the process. You gotta trust the process.
Chris?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris Conkling, talking about all things nerdy, video games, television, movies, designer collectibles, you name it, I'm talking about it.
And hot toys.
Yes, always hot toys.
Brian?
Hey, yeah, you guys can find me on Twitter at TruePopaholic. And I just want to thank you, James, you, Vash, for having us. This has been
Yes.
super awesome.
The pleasure was ours, truly.
But yeah, it really is. This has been so awesome seeing you guys every week inform me about all of the comic book stuff that I'm unaware of while watching this show, these shows and this content. And yeah, it's been great. And I can't wait to do more stuff with you guys in the future.
Thank
Yeah,
you
it's
guys
gonna
for
be
having
awesome.
us.
Yeah, for sure. Vash?
You guys can find me everywhere at Legendary Vash, and definitely me and James and the crew just opened our membership for the YouTube channel of Anime Lately brand. And if you guys want to use emojis of James screaming at me, telling me that I'm wrong, so
I'm
use
never
that
going to let
emoji.
this down.
Yep, you're never, because I'm gonna use
James,
a lot more.
I do have to say, I watched you say that, and I was like, that's not right. Vash is right.
I know.
I was laughing because when he said that, I was like, this is going to bite him in the ass, and I'm going to turn this
I know.
around against him.
couldn't save you.
The supreme nerd in me was like, no, that's not correct at all.
It happens. It happens to all of us. It happens to all of us. Don't worry.
I felt bad for James because then he sent me a whole text like, hey man, I'm sorry about that. Like, James, we're friends. I totally understand. Mistakes happen. But then I'm like, hey, I could get memes out of this, so I had no problem with this because I got like 3 gifts that I'm just waiting for people to subscribe to the membership. We have a $2 tier and a $3 tier. So if you guys want to subscribe to that, we will make more emojis. I will make more emojis of James, Ray, and Sam. Not myself, because I'm the one that does it. You and I get any of myself emojis. You guys are going to get one. But Ray, James, and Sam, you'll get a lot of them. So definitely subscribe to that. And definitely follow us on Legendary Vash and subscribe to the Villains podcast on iTunes and everywhere else because it supports us. And also, subscribe to the Careful Spoilers because what the fuck you doing? Don't blue balls us. Help us out. Give us the Careful Spoilers cut. You guys want that.
C4S cut.
Again, guys, I really, really appreciate every single one of you being here. You can follow me all over social media at JB Exclusive and at C4SVillains. all of our social medias, all of the links to Popaholics on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, on iTunes, YouTube, all of that stuff will be in the description below. So make sure you guys support these amazing creators. Like I said before, they have my favorite podcast running right now. So support these guys, and they will be back on Villains. Vash and I will be back on a future episode of Popaholics, we hope. Can't wait to do future collaborations with you guys.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we will see you guys on the next one.